Good evening, everyone. We're going to begin tonight's meeting of the Weathersfield Planning and Zoning Commission. And first order of business is roll call and seating of alternates. I'm going to ask Clerk Homicki if you would call the roll, please.
Good evening, all. Chairman Joe Hammer.
Here.
Vice Chair Lambruni.
Here.
I'm here. Commissioner Brecklin.
Here.
Commissioner Deane.
Here.
Commissioner Drake. No. Commissioner Edwards.
Here.
Commissioner Giaffredo.
Here.
Commissioner Roberts.
Here.
Commissioner Ercolini. No. Commissioner Laurie. No. Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Okay, so with one regular member missing and two alternates missing, I think if Paul Thompson participates, that gives us a full complement of 9. Okay. We have 2 public hearing matters tonight. For those of you who haven't been here before, just a couple of words about the procedures that we use for the public hearing. We first hear from the applicant, and if the applicant is speaking or anyone else, we ask that you go up to the podium over there, use the microphone, and please state your name and address for the record. Direct all your comments or questions to the commission, and then we will have a chance to get the applicant back up after the public comment, and we'll do our best to try to get answers to all those questions. Couple other things. Once any public hearing is closed, and we decide when we're ready to close it, but once it closes, we're not able to take any new information from anyone, not from the applicant or the public. And at that point, we can consider everything that's been said, but not any new information. So keep that in mind as well. And if you are speaking to an application, would just, if there are multiple people speaking on the same application and you share some of those views, please, you can tell us that you agree with what another speaker has said, and we'd like to just try to keep things moving as best we can. But with that said, our first public hearing item is special permit change of use, 184 Main Street, seeking conversion of a bed and breakfast to a restaurant with outdoor seating and a parking reduction and modification submitted by 3E Main LLC. And again, if the applicant would identify themselves and for the record. And
certainly. Good evening, Mr. Commissioner and Commissioners. My name is Attorney Brian Silver. I'm with the law firm of Silver & Silver, LLP, out of New Britain, Connecticut. I do happen to be a resident of the town of Weathersfield for the past 50 years, 23 John Lane. Present with me is Eric Croy. He's the principal of the applicant, the owner of 184 Main Street. We also have present with us in the gallery the architect who designed the plans and the engineer who submitted all of the engineering reports. Both are available for any questions once we're done with our brief summary of what the application consists of. As the Commission certainly is aware, our proposal is to convert 184 Main Street from a commercial bed and breakfast to a full restaurant. It is located in the Village Business District. It is located directly across the street from the Old Town, right down the street from the Charles, from the other restaurants and businesses in that area. Mr. Croy's proposal and plan is to create a upscale Southern Italian cuisine, hours of operation being 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. We do believe that this location is a suitable location for this type of restaurant in the Village Business District. And again, I'm sure the Commission has some questions about the plans themselves, but I'm going to touch briefly on some of the major components that we need to tackle. One is whether or not this particular use is appropriate at this location. As the Commission knows, one of the items that needs to be resolved with any business in this area is dealing with the Historic District Commission. We did submit our plans and applications to the Historic District Commission. We went back and forth through several meetings, including public comments, to come up with the final plans that are now presented and approved by the Historic District. The goal for Mr. Croy is to make sure that the facade and the building itself remains pretty much intact. There are going to be some improvements, but All of the improvements were approved by the Historic District, and it's going to blend into that neighborhood. We understand the value, obviously, of the historic nature of Old Weathersfield, and we want to make sure that this blends in and does not become an eyesore. So the facade and the exterior will look very similar to what it does now, and any changes are going to coexist with the other businesses and buildings in that area. So again, I realize that the standards and the elements that you need to find for a special permit approval are townwide. But because we're already in the historic district, many of those elements have already been reviewed and satisfied by the historic district. So I just want this commission to understand that, which I'm sure you do. It does comply with the neighborhood. It's compatible with the neighborhood. I realize there are going to be neighbors here who believe that this restaurant shouldn't be in their neighborhood, but again, this is the Village Business District. This is 184 Main Street, so it is Main Street in the Village Business District. It's in the heart of that area where there are other restaurants. There's a bar right across the street. The fire station's right across the street. Many businesses in that area. Mr. Croy's goal is to coexist with the residences that are in that area. They also, obviously, there are homes on Main Street in the Village Business District, so we do believe that this particular restaurant would coexist. I'd also like the commission to take note, which I'm sure you do know, this building at 184 was previously approved as a commercial bed and breakfast. This was a commercial establishment where they would prepare, serve meals to customers and allow the customers to stay over. The restaurant is also going to be preparing and serving meals, just not allowing anyone to sleep over. The next bigger issue I think we need to tackle is going to be the parking. I think the commission saw a letter that my office submitted requesting a parking waiver in accordance with section 6.2D5, which does allow the commission to take into account in this particular Village Business District whether or not there's other off-site parking. 184 is, as you know, 184 Main Street is located directly next to the Keeney Memorial Center. Currently, that has 100 public parking spaces. These 100 public parking spaces are not dedicated to anyone; they're public, so anyone can park there. From all the way down Main Street, anywhere, anybody can park there. We know that the town does have a conceptual plan in place where they're hoping to expand that to 141 parking spaces. I believe in the packet that was submitted, there's some photographs that my client took on Friday and Saturday nights over the past month or two. Perhaps if Dave's able to pull them up. But
Yeah, I could show them now or at any point.
Sure, if you're able to pull them up.
You could keep going. Well,
Okay.
just do that in the.
Mr. Croy took some photos between the hours of 5 to 7 p.m. on various Friday and Saturday nights of the Keeney Center parking lot, just to kind of show what kind of parking is available. It's definitely not a full parking area. We do know that other restaurants also utilize that. But I believe it's our position that the bulk of the parking that other restaurants use are are on-street parking.
So for the commissioners, you do have these pictures in your packets, but for the benefit of those in attendance and those possibly watching via YouTube, we'll see if we can get this on the screen for you.
While you're pulling those up. Again, 184 is located directly next to 200, which is the Keeney. It is our proposal that we create and construct at the applicant's expense a pedestrian pathway connecting the parking lot to my client's property. I know this was a comment that was presented by, I believe, the engineer and perhaps the fire marshal that might also be in your packet. Mr. Croy is fully in favor of that. It would also provide for safe travel for pedestrian traffic from that parking area directly to his restaurant. It would also obviously be convenient for that purpose as well. Okay. In addition to that, directly across the street from my client's property at 171 Main Street is the firehouse, which contains another public parking area. Currently, it has 28 parking spaces there. I know, again, the Weathersfield does have a proposed design plan to increase those spaces as well. And again, the firehouse parking and the Keeney are both directly in front of or next to 184 Main Street. So although these public parking areas are used by anyone, they would be very important for this particular location. Additionally, there's plenty of on-street parking in Old Weathersfield. I know that it does get full at times, but there's about 232 spaces in the Village Business District area for on-street parking. And lastly, regarding the parking, my client did enter into a written lease at the property at 383 Silas Deane Highway with that office building owner to allow for his employee parking. So his plan is to not allow any employees to park on site or in these other public parking areas. He's going to be shuttling them off-site to 383 Silas Deane Highway for all of his employees. Employee parking is typically a problem with restaurants because the employees will be parking there from open to close. They're not coming and going with the table changes. So the fact that he's able to get all of these cars out of that area, we think is certainly going to help with the parking issue. With that said, I don't know if the commission has any questions pertaining to the parking or the location issue, or if there's questions regarding the building itself, the structural or the engineering. I'd have to defer to the smarter folks in the back for those questions.
Sure. Peter?
Attorney Silver.
Yes.
What would be required in parking in this area? I understand that you're asking, that we consider something different here, but what is the requirement? Have you counted up the number of spaces that would have been required? If you had the space on the property, what would it have been?
I'm told by the engineer it would be 60 parking spaces.
Is
A
that
restaurant in Old Weathersfield could possibly have.
60? Does that include,
That includes employees. Correct.
with employees at 60?
Employees.
Okay.
I know Mr. Croy in his package and his narrative estimated that he's going to be bringing in about 20 employees into town. But I believe the 60 includes employees, correct?
And currently you have 2 spaces, right? So you're going to be shy 58.
I believe there's 3. There's 3 spaces in the back.
3 spaces.
Leaving sufficient room for dumpsters and whatnot.
Got you. Okay.
And
Thank
also
you.
not increasing the paved area. I know that was a concern some of the neighbors had with the historic commissions. We're trying to limit the amount of paving that we do in the back.
Okay. Thank you.
Just for the commissioner's benefit, so in front of you, I did hand out, we did receive communication over the weekend, today and yesterday. So there is some information, including additional letters, both in support and opposition, that are in addition to the full agenda packet. We also did receive comments from the fire marshal today on both items that are for both public hearing items today. And then we did also receive communication from the town engineer regarding the next item on the agenda. But I just wanted to call your attention to those communications because they are in addition to what was in the packet. I also do have pictures that were provided by the applicant a few weeks ago that include examples of the entree. So if you'd like, I could distribute those now, and it's up to you. We could also share those with the audience, but I'll just split them up.
I believe the sample menu was included in the initial application.
That should be-
Those photos were more recent.
I'm just going to send some this way and some this way, and you can continue to answer questions in commission. Can I proceed as they'd like?
Another question?
Sure. Go ahead.
Just another question. Could you describe for us how you foresee people coming to this restaurant? I mean, there's no parking in the back, so basically you have maybe 1 or 2 people coming from the back to the side door, I would imagine, where you have the ramp if you have a handicapped person. But for the most part, the majority of the people traffic will flow from where?
So it's gonna-
And where would they go in? Could you explain how
I think
that's going to?
Sure, I think right now it'd be through the front door, the primary traffic. However, if the town and Mr. Croy are able to reach some kind of an agreement regarding a pedestrian walkway, which is our goal, is to be able to have a paver, stone paver, a brick paver pathway. It's very short between his side lot and the parking area. I think a majority of the customers would probably be using that to stay off of the Main Street area.
So if you put that walkway, where would that go and how would the flow to the restaurant be?
So we proposed two in the beginning, with one that will connect straight to the front of the sidewalk, and also it's one that we can connect to the back where the patio is in the back, and they will be able to get into the restaurant without going to the main street.
Right. We looked at the town's conceptual plan, and the town actually had, in the conceptual plan, it has some sidewalks that they were creating. We were just going to be able to tie right into those sidewalks.
Okay, so if you put in that walkway that's being suggested by the town engineer, then you can exit both in the front and in the back,
That would be the goal.
right?
yes.
That's the way okay. Thank you.
Any other questions at this point? And do you have more you're planning to address in terms of hours of
I mean, just-
operation and
If
function?
if there's questions about hours of operation, obviously Mr. Coy can address them. His goal is to be open from 11:30 for lunch through 10 o'clock in the evening. That is his goal. Obviously, we understand that the commission has the ability to potentially limit things, but that's what he would like to see happen. It's a relatively small patio area. It's on the side of the building that does not face any of the residents. It faces only the parking lot, the Keeney Center parking lot. So we think, and the lighting that was approved by the Historic Commission is very minimal lighting, so it's not going to be a lot of bright. There's definitely no string lights or anything like that. They were very adamant about the type of lighting that we could put in that area, which they did approve again. And I do realize that the parking is an issue. I understand that. I understand that everyone in this commission has that concern about the parking. And one of my comments I have about that is, I don't believe there's going to be another location in Old Weathersfield in the Village Business District that's going to be able to have a restaurant with the adequate parking. It doesn't happen based on that area. So if the commission believes that as of today, the Village Business District is fully saturated with restaurants and that the restaurants that are there is more than enough, then that's a position that I could understand. But if any restaurant is ever going to open in that location or in that downtown Village Business District, this location would be the primary, the best choice, just because of its proximity to the two public parking lots.
Could you, I know this is in the plans that we all got copies of, but could you just review for the benefit of the commission and the public, I'm looking at one of your plans, so you're proposing a total of 114 dining seats plus 24 counter seats, so a total of 138 seats. Is that correct on both floors of the building?
Correct.
And you're estimating 20 employees. Quick question for you on that is, what would be the maximum number of employees that would be there at one time?
The maximum will be Friday, Saturday, and the busiest night. And I've been doing restaurant business for last 20 years. Thinking about 15 to 17 employees, the busiest shift.
And I guess you indicated you have a lease on the Silas Deane Highway, 383 Silas Deane Highway parking. I think that's on the corner of Hillcrest Street and the Silas Deane. Is that the office type?
The office, yes.
Yeah, we don't have a copy of that lease, I don't believe. Has that been submitted to the town?
I do have a copy. I don't know if it was submitted or if the town.
It wasn't in the materials that were given to us, but could you just describe how that would work in terms of shuttling? When would it run? Who would run it? What type of vehicle would be used, et cetera?
Yeah, so the back office manager or assistant manager that will be doing the payroll, inventory, and all this stuff, that will be the office. The building itself is small. It's tiny to have everything the restaurant needs. And that's why we acquired a new leasing space that will be just the back office. We have the assistant manager. We have a van that will be transporting the employees. The owner of 383, he said I have 10 parking spaces, but after 4 p.m. no one is there. He says, yeah, I can utilize all of the parking space if I need to, but there's no reason unless we decide to move in customers with a valet. That would be another option that we can add to the restaurant.
And how many seats on the patio that you're proposing?
It's 28.
Is that
28.
Is that included in the 114 dining and 24 counter, or in addition to?
No, this is included.
You're sure? Because it wasn't clear to me when I read the plan.
I'm peeking at the architect, he's the brains behind the operation, just to confirm with that, Joel. Is that correct?
138 total, including the outside. 110 is the inside.
this says 114 dining seats, and I was a little confused because I saw the 110 on the inside, and the number that I saw for the first floor in your plan didn't match up when I added up the actual number of seats at the
This is Joe
tables.
Raphael, by the way,
Okay.
who's approaching the microphone. He's the architect who's very familiar with designing old
Okay.
buildings.
Yes, my name is Joel Raphael. My office is in Hartford. I just introduced myself. I have done a lot of historic work. If you've had the pleasure, your kids have had the pleasure to go to the historic carousel in Bushnell Park, that's a building I did. The Keeney Clock Tower, and in Elizabeth Park, we restored 5 historic buildings. There's been a few versions of the floor plan. That's why there's a slight variation, but it's 110 seats inside. There are 28 seats outside, and I'll get my notes. Okay. 110 and 28, so a total of 138, including the outside seating.
So, yes, I'm looking at, again, sheet C2, your
A2.
listing of all those spaces. Counter seats, I thought you have some tables for 2 in the bar area that you were calling counter seats, so I don't know that we can,
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
the total number of seats, this is 10, but.
110 and 28.
we're outside.
Those are just regular tables.
Yeah.
This is where the bar area
Okay.
is, right here.
Okay, that's easier to understand, but, all right, anybody else have any other? Yes, sir.
Yeah, a couple questions for you. Do you contemplate any entertainment? No. Will there be any catering services operated from that location? No. Will there be takeout services? Could people do takeout from there? There will be pickup and takeout? And then will you be using any delivery services like some of the, app-based Grub hubs and things like that?
Honestly, if we are busy inside, we don't need the exterior, the outside work. At this moment, we don't have anything proposed of that.
Okay. But it's not off the table, that could be a future consideration you're looking at?
Correct.
Okay.
2 hands here. One's Paul.
Just a question about the sort of lease, because I think you mentioned, I was looking through here, I didn't see the details of the additional parking for staff and things like that, but just thinking about winter conditions, and sort of like who is responsible for keeping the staff parking available, paved, salted, cleared in the snow in the winter, and making sure that if there's any of that kind of stuff going on. Is that included in your lease agreement?
The owners of the building, you have the lease, yeah.
Yeah, I have the lease. I'll tell you who's responsible for snow removal.
I think Mr. Silver, so there was a reference to the agreement in the statement of use, so the commission does have that, but it would be beneficial if we could have a copy of that lease, even if you want to redact certain things.
I don't think we even need to redact anything.
You're welcome to, and I don't need it tonight.
Later tonight or tomorrow morning, I'll email
Sure.
it to you.
Thank you.
But to answer your question about the snow removal, I believe it is the landlord's
The landlord,
responsibility.
yes.
And he is an attorney, so I hope he understands his obligations and will keep the parking lot free and clear of all snow and ice. But as Abigail's mentioned, he's going to be using an office in that office building for his bookkeeping for the restaurant. So he's going to be going back and forth anyways.
Yeah, I just had a question about the outdoor dining. Is the outside dining closing at 10 o'clock like the rest of the restaurant, so people will be out there up to 10 o'clock?
That is the proposal that the owner of the restaurant would like to see happen. We understand that the commission may have differing opinions upon that.
Yeah, understand. And
There'd be no exterior music or anything like that.
do we know what Lucky Lou's outdoor dining, do we know what that is, David?
I do not off the top of my head, no.
I was just curious if that's consistent with Lucky Lou's is right across from this place here, so.
There's also, more recently, we had the Larissa Lake
Correct. That's right.
facility, which
That's
is
right.
on the other side of this,
I think we had it,
farther west. I think that was earlier, but
I
I'm
think
not
that was 8
sure.
o'clock, right? Yeah.
I think potentially.
Okay.
Any other questions at this point, commission members? Yes, Paul.
This might be an internal question. On the map of the parking with the blue outlines, I think it's a conceptual map, that's still being planned with a TBD execution date, or is that going to happen?
That's correct. So all of the parking expansion projects are in the planning stage. I don't believe there's funding for the construction of any of those, which is an important point.
So that's still, it's planned, but no funding, no commitment, no date?
Correct.
Okay.
As of now, I believe there's 100 spaces, a little over 100 at the
Yep.
Keene Center and 28 at the fire department.
They are being pursued, I will say that. I mean, they are conceptual. I would say they were unfunded, but desired improvements. They're conceptual.
Have you made any plans for when, like, the Keene Center has events on weekends, Friday and Saturday nights, which will also be your busy nights? Have you made any kind of arrangements with the Keene Center to maybe know their schedule ahead of time or something? Because I know that I've been to events at the Keene Center and that parking lot's full.
I regularly check the websites and every event that they have, so I will be informed with everything that's going on. I would like to be informed with more what's going on in Weathersfield, just so at least I learn more what's going on around me in the town. So yes, to answer your question, we will be checking on a regular basis to see what events they have to make sure plan correctly about parking and tell customers that are coming to the restaurant that the parking might be busy or closed.
Other questions, Tracy?
Just another point that's relevant. So the site plan that's in your that's on your in front of you on the desk is an updated site plan. So one of the documents we received since the packet was posted is the applicant and the applicant's engineer did make revisions to the site plans, and they did provide a response to the town engineer's comments. And so the updated site plan is what is in your packet in front of you. I will say that the town engineer has not had a chance to review those revisions yet. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So the comments that are in your packet have been addressed by the applicant, but the town engineer has not had a chance to respond and determine if those are satisfactory. And just also, the applicant also has not had a chance to received the fire marshal's comments today. I just wanted to point that out, that there both of the items on the agenda tonight, a lot of the information from staff is coming in in today and yesterday, and we have received a large amount of material from public comments as well. So I would just, not to sort of get to the end first, but I know both applicants were eager to start the process, and so the public hearings are here, but there is I would suggest a need probably to allow some staff to review the comments, and it's not a mistake that I did not have a memo. We've been so busy getting the public hearings ready and the notices out that I have also not been able to do a thorough review, which I would like the opportunity to do unless the commission feels like they have enough information. However, I'm saying that because I do think we should continue with the public hearing. There's a significant interest in one or both of these applications, but we might have to continue the public hearing for a couple of reasons.
Beyond tonight, in other words?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So if I could just follow up on that. Of the 20, I think there's 20, how many are 20, of the 27 items that the engineering department identified, some of these are relatively straightforward, but some are not. How many of these have you handled? Is the engineer here tonight?
Yes, the engineer and his assistant are both here, so he could certainly address.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ozzie Torres. I'm a professional engineer here in Connecticut and an office right here in Weathersfield. We answered every question and we put the answer right on that letter.
Beyond
I
the
believe
one
there's a
In the
3-page
packet.
letter.
one you received tonight.
Yes, in the packet.
Three-page
Okay.
email that we went through every item on the list and we were able to answer every item pretty much the way
Here's the town memo.
the engineering
Yeah,
had
this is the,
asked us to do.
27 items now. I guess what I'm most curious about is where the town engineer recommends that because of use of the public parking, perhaps you want to share in the maintenance for the future? How does the applicant feel about that?
The applicant's willing to consider that, certainly. I did have a brief conversation with David earlier today, I believe. I think it may be premature to put a number on it because we weren't sure what the town would be looking for, but Mr. Croy is willing to be reasonable, and he understands that his customers would be using that parking area probably more so than other businesses, and if there's a cost to contribute to the maintenance, it's certainly something to consider.
Do you have, before I open it up to public comment, does the applicant have anything further they'd like to say at this point?
If the commissioners didn't have any other questions, I think we're all set at this point.
Okay, and we'll call you back following public comment, okay?
Thank you.
At this point, if there's any member of the public who'd like to speak on this application, comments or questions, we'll take you one at a time up here. Yes, sir, in front.
Good evening. My name is Robert O'Connor. I live at 180 Main Street and have done so since 2016. My property immediately abuts the 184 Main Street. Our home, along with the home directly behind us, and there are some other adjacent homes, both share the property boundaries with this site. I know the comments usually stray about parking and everything else in the menu, but I want to begin by grounding my comments in the legal standards of the commission and the requirement that they need to apply. Under Article 8 of the Wethersfield zoning regulations, a special permit may only be granted if the commission can make specific affirmative findings, including that the proposal will not adversely affect neighboring properties. The proposal will not impair public health, safety, or welfare. It will not create excessive noise, traffic, odor, or disturbance. It is not in harmony with the surrounding area, or it is in harmony with the surrounding area and neighborhood character. And finally, that the site is physically suitable and adequate for the proposed intensity of use. And I'll probably say the word intensity. This site differs in a lot of ways. Even in the comments right now, we went from 110 seat, which I had written down in my notes, to 138, which is a 20% increase in the intensity of people in that place. So, these are all mandatory approval criteria. These are not, there's no wiggle room in these. If the commission cannot confidently make these findings in the affirmative, then Article 8 in our regulations require the denial of the special permit. With that framework in mind, my comments are focused on how this application, as submitted, fails to meet those Article 8 standards. I'd like to preface the beginning with the fact that frustrates myself as a resident. The application ignores directly abutting houses, including mine and all the other houses. They make mention of a bar, the Keeney Center, and all the other restaurants and businesses, but just because you say Village Business District, and that's the name of our district, the regulations view that district as a resident mixed-use business village. So it doesn't eliminate us. The fact that, despite the fact that there are residences directly beside and behind the site, the applicant's plans and narrative make almost no mention of these homes or the direct impact on them. In the special permit process, I think this omission is significant. It suggests that the application is avoiding the central reality that a 138 or 110 seat restaurant is being placed directly next to existing homes in that neighborhood. A complete submission should at least address that directly. This one does not. And it reflects in the questions that are asked. Not one person has said, hey, what about those people that live there? So it's frustrating. On the subject of intensity and neighborhood impact, this is a very high density commercial use. The previous bed and breakfast was nowhere near this. The 118 or 110 seat restaurant opening from 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. with deliveries, trash, staff arrival, preparation, cleanup, occurring before opening and after closing brings the following: constant traffic circulation, curbside loading and idling, staff activity, mechanical noise, trash handling and service vehicles, none of these were mentioned tonight, late evening and early morning activity, overflow parking, which is always the thing that's mentioned, and regular and truck and delivery movement. These impacts do not remain on the site. They spill directly into the surrounding area and surrounding homes. The plan also shows 3 handicap ADA spaces extremely close to the adjoining properties, guaranteeing headlights, idling engines, and exhaust release directly beside residences, including mine. The town engineer, I think those points were addressed, but one of the things that he did mention was that the possibility of two-way traffic in the driveway, possibly widening it to 12 feet from 10, which will bring increased vehicle volume and safety conflicts in an area that's heavily used by pedestrians, visitors, tourists, and cyclists. None of this is compatible with the no adverse effect, no disturbance compatibility standards in Article 8. I know the fire marshal was mentioned, and not privy to that, what his findings were, but just as the applicant noted, the Fire Station 1 is located directly across the street from this area. That facility requires clear, predictable access at all times for emergency response. At the same time, the frontage in both 184 and my home at 180 is posted as no parking. And there's also an active bus stop adjacent to 184 Main Street. This high-intensity restaurant use with frequent vehicle circulation, as we hear drop-offs, shuttles, deliveries, and traffic turnover, creates a real risk of vehicles stopping, waiting, passing parked vehicles, idling in the no parking corridor and near the bus stop. This would especially be true if there's any talk of Uber Eats or DoorDash, because I've lived through that already. That also creates a risk. Those conditions can conflict with the emergency vehicle movement and sightline safety and should be weighed carefully under Article 8's public health and safety standard. I'd like to talk about one of the things that's most pressing for us, and that's the loss of residential privacy. There is also a serious loss of privacy. With this 110-seat restaurant, no matter which way people go in and which door they access, will be constantly active. There will be a steady flow of people along the property, all with clear sight lines directly into neighboring homes, including our bedroom and private living areas. I don't know whether the commission knows the distance, but the distance from my windows to the building is around 20 feet and sometimes less. It's not just about me. This is about any residents who's in that area for that. So there's no meaningful screening or required setback talked about. What should remain private are family lives, bedrooms, bathrooms, backyards, all become exposed simply because of the intensity and proximity of the use. This is the opposite of quiet residential enjoyment, again, failing Article 8. I'd like to bring up something that, after studying the plan, in addition to these quality of life and safety concerns, I want to raise a procedural issue about the accuracy of this site plan, because I think it's important that the commission has the clearest possible information when evaluating a special permit. The plan for 184 Main Street appears to rely on a 1927 survey as the basis for the property layout. However, my home at 180 Main Street was professionally surveyed this year, actually in 2025, and that recorded survey shows that a portion of the paved driveway area between the two properties lies within my deeded property boundary. I'm not raising this as a dispute. It's not, that's not my purpose. It's only to point out that there appears to be a difference between a nearly 100-year-old survey underlying the restaurant plan. All the measurements you see there say edge of driveway. This is inaccurate. If The site plan relies on space that may not fully be controlled by the applicant for vehicle circulation, ADA maneuvering, and refuse movement, then the commission may not actually be reviewing a plan that reflects the true legal limits of that site. A special permit approval is supposed to be based on accurate, current site control and a workable plan as submitted, not assumptions that might later need to be changed. This plan also has, which was mentioned, air conditioning condensers, at least 2 of them, mechanical ventilation equipment, and I think it's called a grease trap. These run for long periods of time, produce constant compressor and fan noise, vibration, and kitchen exhaust fumes. The mechanical vent fan, in its literature, if you look at it, it says possibly carcinogenic output. That's a cancer-causing thing, 20 feet from my house, and others. And people go to the Keeney Center. Vehicle circulation, especially near the ADA spaces, means ongoing exhaust fumes directly beside homes, creating a real health and air quality concern. Trash handling and stored food waste also increase the likelihood of rodent activity, which is extremely difficult to reverse once it's established. These conditions cannot be squared with Article 8 public health and welfare standards. We have heard some stuff about the employee shuttle program in the plan, but each shuttle trip also adds traffic, stopping, idling, and late-night pickup activity in residential and commercial streets. And because there is no enforceable long-term shuttle requirement, even though there might be a lease for the area, it's reasonable to assume and expect that employees park on nearby residential streets, such as Church Street, Center Street, and Garden Street. Ask the folks on those streets how they're enjoying their parking these days. The applicant has also submitted selectively timed photographs of nearby parking lots during low demand periods. Article 8 requires realistic evaluation of peak period impact and not off-peak snapshots. This plan should have a traffic study done and as well as a parking study to accompany any kind of decision. I did have a section on the town engineer's 27-point review, and just that if the town engineer could not confirm safe site function before this meeting at least, the commission shouldn't be able to legally make that required finding either. And in conclusion, Article 8 requires a denial, the special permit. For all these reasons, the application fails multiple Article 8 standards, including no adverse effect, public safety, compatibility, and site adequacy. I support responsible business and a strong community. I have nothing against, this is not me against them. This is them against the standards of the town, the legal standards. This isn't whether we're going to be able to fit this here. This is a high-intensity use that comes in and risks privacy loss, exhaust fumes, parking pressure, and they're trying to fit the site without, they have to fit the site without shifting its burdens, which this does. Traffic, lighting, noise, rodent risk, privacy loss onto surrounding residents, businesses, the museums. For these reasons, I respectfully request that the commission deny the special permit as submitted, and I thank you guys for your time.
A question for you, I think, before you go.
Mr. O'Connor, I have a question.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to answer questions because I'm not doing it.
It's a question regarding your survey that you had done. This map up here shows that the property line to your house is about 2.5 feet, and that the driveway is essentially on the property line. Are you saying that it's closer than that? Is that what the actual survey is that you had done?
I'm saying that some of my property extends onto the paved surface, and that uses the paved surface as the property line. The property line in some areas is on that driveway, and it might even be a little bit in the back too. There's a gigantic black walnut tree that we actually share, which I also found, it was a big question about who owns that tree. I was afraid that might, come under an axe, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your questions, but.
Peter, I drove by down there, and you have the stakes out, correct, from your survey, still from 2025?
Stakes are out and there's pins in the driveway, like they put nailed pins in there.
Because it looked to me like that stake was basically, yeah, if I kind of drew my eye, I'm like, it just didn't add up. It looked like there was more
That's
stuff
what
going under your
I
house.
think in 1927, the driveway was probably not paved, and there was a big tree on my property in the corner that actually was on the 184 property, which I guess got knocked down at some point. And that's why the driveway does a little curve, which is their property, but it curves the other way and takes over the thing. So I don't see having a plan even being discussed when there's a potential property issue there, so. I thank you again.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public like to speak on this application? Yes, I saw a hand, ma'am, in the back there.
Hi, Christine Lasella, 37 Belmont Street. So I'm a lifelong resident of Weathersfield. I have lived in Old Weathersfield for about 33 years. I'm employed at 187 Main Street for 40 years. That's otherwise known as the Old Town Cafe, which is right across the street from the restaurant. I'm not here representing the Old Town. I'm here representing myself as a resident of Old Weathersfield. I'm not opposed to anybody starting a business anywhere. Main Street has gotten really congested. Like I said, I've lived here for 33 years, down in Old Weathersfield. We've always had businesses there, drugstores, there was a bank, the police station was down there at one time, there was grocery stores, there's been gift shops, there was even a gas station on Hartford Ave once upon a time ago. But this portion of Main Street has gotten really congested, and my concern is not that the gentleman wants to open a restaurant. We don't have parking. I attend council meetings regularly. There is no plan in place. I have advocated, probably going on 3 years now, to expand the Keeney. I've suggested it to the council. They said it's in the works. The town council, as well as the town manager's office, wants to expand the firehouse parking lot. The fire chief strongly has opposed that, saying it's not safe to expand a parking lot behind the firehouse when you have a 50-foot wide driveway. So I know that has not come in front of you guys yet, nor has it gone to HDC for parking there. There is a map in your packets. I believe that's from 2022. I don't think that's a recent drawing, so they have not committed to the Keeney, but I think the Keeney is a great idea. But until I think we have something set in stone for parking, this congested area, being a resident who walks, runs, well, I don't run that much anymore, but I walk, cycling, people, we have the bike paths, and it is a mixed-use area. I've watched a couple of town council meetings as of late, and it's been referred to as the downtown area. We've never called it the downtown area. This is our neighborhood, and that area is mixed use. Larissa Lake purchased the property at 164, 168 Main Street 5 years ago with the intent to put a tea shop, a doctor's office, possibly a bakery. And I've understood that now that is not happening, and that there's a gentleman who owns a restaurant in Glastonbury that wants to put something in over there. And I recognize they have their own parking, but you can only put so many cars. If 40 people show up, they're going to need parking too. So it's kind of in conjunction here to say, if this gets approved, how do you not approve this other guy, and vice versa, without a set parking plan in place? We need to have it. We need to see it and know that it's going on and it's going to happen. There's snow on the ground right now, buses, cars parked on the street. Our streets get more narrow with snow. Anyone that lives down there or drives down there can recognize that. And I think it's going to become a safety issue. More parking. The Old Town has its own parking lot, so this has nothing, like I said, to do with them. And we get deliveries in the back, but The firehouse has trucks coming in and out, has fire personnel. We get more fire calls now than ever. The fire department responds to a lot. And I feel safety has to be a number one issue, and the town has to really look hard at that before we start opening more businesses, particularly restaurants. You know, if he was opening up an attorney office and he needed 4 spots, I think that's fair. The Keeney Center is the ideal place to expand parking with bathrooms, et cetera. But they also use their parking spaces for events. Gosh, I think you could put 150 people upstairs. So again, this is nothing personal. I'm not like, oh, you know, God, this guy wants to open a restaurant, but I think the neighbors need to be considered. The master plan of Old Weathersfield, and I should have brought the copy of it, stakeholders need to be involved. When businesses are opening, when there's construction, I mean, there's a whole laundry list, and the neighbors should be involved. There's 1,100 homes in Old Weathersfield. And Main Street is part of our neighborhood. I live off, you know, down the road and to the left, but it's part of my neighborhood too. And, you know, when Larissa Lake converted that 2-family house, I thought, what a waste of a beautiful residence. So I'm just asking you to consider, let's take care of parking before we make any more yeses on any businesses in that area. Silas, Deane, Berlin Turnpike, we need lots of development there. But I just feel for now we need to take a pause with Old Weathersfield. It's not downtown, it's not Restaurant Row, it's not going to be Federal Hill, it's our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Yes, ma'am, in front.
Good evening. My name is Heidi Heller, and I own a 4-family residential building at 172-176 Main Street, known as the Robbins Sisters House. By the way, for me, the Robbins Sisters House is not just a rental property. It's my house as much as it is my tenants' homes. It's a house my husband and I have painstakingly restored over a 10-year period, and it represents a significant investment we've made in the Weathersfield community, which we love. My house is located immediately next to the homes that directly abut the proposed restaurant site. I want to begin by clarifying my perspective. I'm not opposed to good restaurants, and I'm not unfamiliar with their operation. My property already borders a restaurant space on its other side, Larissa Lake's restaurant space, which you approved last year, and also the Charles, which is practically across the street. If this one gets approved, it will be the 3rd home or low-use commercial residential property that's been turned into a restaurant since I purchased my house in 2012. What concerns me here is not the idea of the restaurant, but the scale and the intensity of the proposal, a 138-seat restaurant with outdoor dining and alcohol service placed directly next to existing homes. The question before you is whether that intensity can function in this location without creating unavoidable impacts on surrounding residences. A restaurant of this size operates far beyond simple meal service alone. It brings employee shift changes, deliveries, trash removal, mechanical operation, late evening departures, constant vehicle turnover. These activities occur throughout the day and into the night, and they do not remain contained on the property site. In this case, they spill directly into adjacent residential properties, including my own. As mentioned by my neighbor, Rob O'Connor, at 180 Main Street, beyond the traffic and the noise, this proposal creates a significant and lasting loss of residential privacy. With a restaurant of this size operating into the evening, there will be continuous foot traffic along the property edge, along the sidewalks, creating direct sight lines into living spaces both inside and outside in the backyard. These plans do not show meaningful buffering or screening sufficient to protect the separation expected between a high-intensity commercial use and the private homes surrounding it. Mechanical and service impacts compound these concerns. Kitchen ventilation, air conditioning equipment generate ongoing background noise and constant vibration. Trash handling and food waste storage introduce sanitation issues, increased rodent risk, as Rob mentioned. Vehicle circulation near homes concentrates exhaust fumes during peak evening hours. Again, these are persistent conditions at all times of the day and night, not occasional inconveniences. I would also ask the Commission to consider the cumulative impact and precedent that this approval would set. Approving a restaurant of this scale next to residences does not end with this parcel. It becomes the benchmark for future applications, making it increasingly difficult to protect residential properties throughout the district over time. As a multifamily property owner, I'm also concerned about long-term housing stability. The persistent noise, lighting, traffic, safety, and late-night activity impact not only the comfort, but tenant retention and livability. These impacts influence whether residential properties remain viable places to live and whether residents can reasonably expect quiet enjoyment of their homes. Has there been a traffic study, a noise study? What are the impacts on the residents? Another important consideration is the reality of enforcement. There are many assurances that are offered in special permit applications, and they depend on future compliance, hours of operation, turning off the radio at a certain time, outdoor activity limits, shuttle use, noise controls. In practice, enforcement becomes complaint-based and reactive, placing the burden on residents to monitor operations and repeatedly involve town staff simply to maintain basic livability. Seasonal impacts also deserve attention here. The greatest disturbances occur during the warmer months when the outdoor dining is in full swing. Windows are open, foot traffic extends later into the evening. My tenants do not have central air. They can't close the windows to keep the noise out in the summertime. These seasonal conditions intensify the noise, the visibility, and the disruption precisely when residents are mostly affected. Finally, it's worth noting that several alternative restaurant locations already exist in town. They are already established rental spaces. They are better suited from a buffering perspective to accommodate higher intensity use without placing this level of burden directly on the neighboring homes. That raises a reasonable question as to whether this particular site is appropriate for a restaurant of this scale, 138 seats. I respectfully ask the Commission to deny the special permit as submitted. Responsible development must be appropriately scaled, accurately planned, have parking, and be compatible with the residential fabric that already exists without shifting its impacts onto neighboring residents. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
I'm Greg Darsigian on behalf of the estate of Alice Darsigian, 43 Robbinswood Drive. And I agree with the comments of the previous speakers and would just like to say my concerns primarily, in addition to highlight the concerns about noise pollution and the buffering and screening with the residential neighbors in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this? Yes, please come up, please. Otherwise, it's not on our tape of the meeting or for the people who are watching.
So we live in Weathersfield on Ridge Road, and when we want to go out and have
We just need your name and address.
Yes.
Oh, Renee Morales, 675 Ridge Road, Weathersfield. So when we want to go out, we've got to go to West Hartford, or we've got to go to Glastonbury, or we'd love to support our own town, but there's really nothing here. So I would love to see more here. I understand these people have issues because they live near there, but I think if you're in a mixed-use area, that you have to expect this. You can't just close your eyes to it. So I'm in support of the restaurant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Hi, my name's Kevin Sullivan. I live at 79 Wright Road, Weathersfield. I don't live in Old Weathersfield. I guess I'd just share my thoughts as somebody that frequents Old Weathersfield and likes to visit. We like to promote Old Weathersfield as a great place to visit, and it is right now. It's obviously very popular. But we also need, I'm not saying you folks are not mindful of this, but it's great for what it is. We have to be very careful with changes. I think I agree with what's been said about the scale of the change here is dangerous for what Old Weathersfield could become with these kinds of changes. I constantly hear comments from people. My wife used to work at the museum across the street. She says parking is a huge problem. I'm not sure what a parking problem is. It's kind of a self-limiting thing, but certainly for the residents that live there, it's very annoying. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track a little bit, but I agree with the previous residents' comments, especially with the scale of the change and the no adverse effect. Takes a little bit of a liberal reading, I think, a flexible reading of the town regulations to say that there's no adverse effect on property values, at least to some of the most immediately located homes. I don't know how it doesn't negatively affect those with the scale of change that's proposed. Otherwise, another place to go have food, eat or something like that, cool. But the scale of the change here with the parking issue and the way it has negatively affected the residents of Old Weathersfield, from what I hear, that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Paul Serbanowitz. I own the multifamily property at 26 Marsh Street, right behind Lucky Lou's. So I definitely have a lot of experience with living next to the restaurant. It is very challenging at times, and I knew that going in because there was already established business there before buying the residential property. And it was something that I could live with, but it is also a much larger buffer zone going across the parking lot, plus the backyard sort of Lucky Lou's, where with Rob being 20 feet or less from this new high-intensity restaurant, it's totally uncalled for. From my point of view, it's basically pushing the residents out of Old Weathersfield. It's just going to become nothing but businesses. And I don't think we want to do that. It's technically a mixed-use area, and it needs to be protected for that standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
First of all, Happy New Year to all of you. So let me start. So I'm Paul Brady. I'm the property owner, co-property owner of 1618 Church Street in Weathersfield. Let me also clarify, as I am the vice chair of the ZBA Commission. I am the chair of People with Disabilities Commission, and I sit on the building commission. That being said, I'm here to speak as a resident, nothing in official capacity. I'm here to really ask a question. As the owner of a property that was several years ago, the zoning was changed to entertain a bar next to a house with not much buffer zone either. It is quite interesting that here we are once again. So my question is, what exactly is Old Weathersfield in the eyes of the resident? Do you pride yourself in saying that you are the oldest town in Connecticut? Because when you talk to people out of state, do they come here for restaurants or do they come here to be taken back in time to see historic buildings, right? And I think in the effort of modernizing this town, you will eventually destroy its history, right? So I don't know what's taken into consideration when you make these zoning decisions as it relates to the history of some of these buildings and the history of the town. That's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
My name is Christina Surgeon. Good evening, everyone. I live at 16 Church Street, 1618 Church Street to be exact. My husband just came up and spoke, so I thought I'd add my 2 cents to the mix because we're homeowners in what would be deemed a historic district. And there is so much concentration of restaurants and other businesses that are going into our little historic district. And for me, some of the points I've written down are that the concentration of too many restaurant uses within our historic district that lacks adequate off-street parking creates significant negative impacts on the character of our town, the safety of our town. We have children that live there, the livability of our area. And so restaurants are extremely high traffic usage, or the buildings or a restaurant is used as a high traffic area. And so generating that sort of frequent short-term visits, delivery activity, and peak hour congestion that exceed what historic districts often designed for pedestrian scale and residential or low intensity scale commercial use it can't reasonably accommodate more. And so for us, this sort of putting more restaurants in sort of leads to increased restaurant density. It sort of leads to illegal parking. And I echo some of the comments that were made by a neighbor at close to the one that is going to be put in now. So we've got blocked driveways. I've experienced that myself. I've reduced access for residents when it comes to emergency vehicles and service providers that are coming in. So these sort of conditions, they undermine public safety and diminish the residents' quiet enjoyment of their properties. And I'll say further that the excessive restaurant activity, it sort of accelerates wear on our historic infrastructure. It increases noise, odors, like the gentleman said earlier, refuse accumulation, late hour disturbances. Again, I have young children who need to sleep at night and they go to school in the morning. And I have experienced it myself with Heirloom Market behind me and with Lucky Lou's across the street and Village Pizza down the road and several other businesses. And so for me, it is near to my heart. And so I will say over time, if we continue putting these in, this sort of threatens the historic district's defining characteristics and shifts its function away from preservation toward commercial exploitation, essentially. And so allowing further restaurant expansion without corresponding parking solutions or careful use balance controls risks eroding the historic district's integrity, discouraging residential occupancy, and undermining the very preservation goals the district was created to protect. And so I will respectfully ask that the board consider all of these factors and decline the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else? All right, seeing none, would the applicant like to address any of the comments that have been made?
Just briefly, again, Attorney Brian Silver on behalf of the applicant. We certainly understand the concerns that the residents have. There's no doubt that a new business directly adjacent to a home is concerning. So we're not trying to minimize their concerns. We do want to emphasize the fact that this particular location was a commercial business, and the location itself in the historic Village Business District, right on Main Street, right in the mix of all these other commercial uses, we do feel that it would act in harmony and compatible with the other uses. Just a couple of very quick comments about some of the items that were referenced. Regarding the survey, it's my understanding the Commission does have an A2 and a T2 survey that was completed within the last year by my client. That's part of the materials, I believe. I don't know if David can confirm that or not. Yep. So we weren't relying on a 100-year-old survey. This was something that was professionally done by, what was the name of the survey?
Flair and Carr?
Flynn and Sear did the survey within the past year. Regarding the issue of buffering and screening, we spent several historic district commission meetings dealing with the buffering and the screening. My client is all in favor of as much buffering and screening as would be allowed. The historic district commission was very particular on the types of plantings, the size of the plantings, the color of the fencing, the size, and that's what's being presented now. If the planning commission feels that there should be additional buffering or screening, my client's more than willing to comply. Obviously, we need to get the historic district to approve it, but we understand the concern, and my client's more than willing to fund whatever the town thinks is appropriate in that respect. And the only other comment, and I know it's kind of nitpicking, but I just wanted to bring it to the Commission's attention. One of the letters that was submitted in opposition as part of your package, I believe the gentleman spoke on it today, Gregory Norsigian. I apologize, sir, for mispronouncing your last name. He included some photos showing what his view was, and I just wanted the Commission to take a peek at that. According to my client, it's pretty clear that this does not show 184 Main Street. This shows the Charles. So I just wanted the Commission to be aware if you're looking at the photos that were part of the package. And other than that, I don't think that the applicant has anything further at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris?
I just had one other question. I was looking at the lighting report here, the schematic, the site lighting map. It looks like, are you adding lighting along the property line with 180, according to this?
Only in the back in the parking lot, not in 180, not on the line. It's just for the handicapped people to make sure they have access and they see the pathway.
Is there any way to get any more detail about what kinds of lighting or the actual lights or anything?
Everything that's on the plans and everything is that's approved to make sure the dim it's small so it doesn't reflect on the neighbor.
Again, what was submitted to the Historic District Commission, which was pretty significant, was they required very specifics about the lumens and the kind of lighting, and I believe that's all within your package.
And also the lighting architect is in the package there. They did the calculations and all the lights that need to be put on.
Yeah, I see the one sheet of just the calculation, but not any other details about the lights or what they would look like or where they'd be, other than the site plan.
They should be all there.
There's another set that was handed to you of plans that were the revised plans in answer to that kind of question, and they have been revised. And all of the lights in this parking
this one.
By the way, the only spaces in the back of that lot are just 3 accessible spaces. There's no other parking in that lot. And those were the 3 required. The lighting plan has been revised, and it's in that second package that you've gotten maybe with this. And it shows, and they're all bollards. They're not tall light standards, so that we're lighting low areas. And the concern was there, definitely not to splash light, make it that bright to the abutting properties.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Tom.
Mr. Chairman, gentlemen, I wonder if you would be able to comment upon your potential hours of operation. That's the typical question that the commission asks in applications of this nature. I haven't heard that responded to as yet, and I didn't see any particulars in the application package relating to hours of operation, days of operation.
I believe it was in the narrative, and I thought we had touched on it, but the goal would be open from 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week.
Thank you.
I think it would be helpful if you could give us some description of what exterior site improvements you would be planning to make. The patio, what is the screening, the patio location, where are the entrance doors for the general public going to be in and out of the building, some basic things like that for us to have a better understanding.
Certainly. Did you want to address that?
Yeah, so I have these renderings that were presented to historic commissioner, which shows where the parking is, what the kind of tables there will be, which everything was approved by the historic. It shows the pathway that we if the town allows for us to connect with the front door. So I can pass this along so you can see them.
I'm looking at the site plan here, unless I've missed it. Do you have any screening at all between yourselves and 180?
Yep. We have a 6-foot wood fence. That's where the approved. Only wood fence is approved by the historic commission.
And where's the fence going to be, from the front all the way to the back?
It will start right where the handicap is in my building and go all the way to the back. And if we need to put more buffering, we can extend to the front as well.
Well, I mean, the driveway essentially is right on the line, so cars are going to be right next to that house. I think you need some screening all along that property line.
Absolutely. That's why I'm completely open to do all the screening of the property line.
And then when there's snow removal, how do you keep the snow from being thrown by the plows on the neighbor's house, which is 2 feet away? How are you going to handle the snow removal there with the house right next to your property? How do you propose to do that?
All the snow will be pushed into our property.
Okay, it's something you have to think about because it's so tight.
Absolutely, yeah, no. I currently clean and plow the snow, and since I have no parking in the back, I just push the snow in the back where I have the dry well. But in the future, we'll move all the snow into our property line like we have.
I'm sure the owner of the bed and breakfast had to deal with the same issue. They'll be able to clear the driveway with snow.
Well, if you put a fence there, it's going to be something you have to deal with snow removal.
It might need to be by snow blower.
If you're going to have any kind of screening to protect, the privacy of that house, you have to deal with the snow issue against the fence.
Which we will, absolutely.
Tony Silver, did you consider putting anything in regards to the Historic District Commission minutes, documentation, comments? I think, I didn't know until right now that you had been before them.
I do have with me the actual approval.
Is there any reason why you didn't submit it to us?
I just assumed it was already part of the town package, but I'm more than happy to pass it along if you'd like. It's the
No, not tonight. It's another day, I guess.
Certainly.
Can you tell us about the last minute documents that the engineer gave us? Have you reviewed those? I know the notes were given by your engineer.
To be honest, I haven't personally reviewed them. I think they were just provided within the past week. They addressed the recently received engineering comments that were just received, I think,
yesterday.
Last week too. Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah. The conceptual parking plan, would you consider champion the stimulation of financing for that in concert with town officials? Because everybody points to the town being responsible for adding another 30 to 100 parking places, and I'm at the Keeney Center maybe 10, 15 times a year, and it's full. I haven't been satisfied on your answer on when the Keeney Center, that our commissioners also asked questions about. What are you going to do when it's full? Where are your patrons going to go?
Well, like I mentioned, we will be looking at the shuttle services, valet parking with the lease parking that we have after 4 p.m. The property owner of 383 have said I can use the whole parking lot. So that's one way that we can look into.
And we've had, and later this evening, we're going to be talking to another parcel that had an arrangement with the seed company parking, maybe the church. Have you reached out to any of those other opportunities?
Absolutely. I reached out to the Hurley Market. Unfortunately, they didn't have anything. I reached out to the First Church, and what they told us is that everything has to go through the boards. It's going to take a lot more time than just getting an okay. And we actually did go yesterday as well, just to make sure to see if we have any other way, and there was no one there. And they told us that we'll have your name, we have your number, we have to talk to the board.
Do you think in a future opportunity it might be available?
Absolutely.
I did look at the lighting layout, and it looks reasonable. The buffer area, you're saying the Historic Commission felt that what you submitted was sufficient?
Yeah, we followed their guidance. We went in there basically asking them what it is that they wanted, because Mr. Croy is willing to basically do what he needed to do, and the plans that were submitted was what they asked for.
What was the public comment at those hearings?
It's very similar to what was today. Mostly the same folks.
Same people coming in.
Same concerns. And again, I'm not trying to minimize their concerns, I understand.
No, I agree.
But yeah, very similar.
And with regard to the detail that Mr. O'Connor gave, do you have any reaction or comment about the bullets that he put together?
Sure, I do. I mean, listen, we're all familiar, well, I'm sure everybody on the commission is familiar with Section 8. I pulled it up. So, I mean, there are various requirements. The first one, 8.1, which is in numerical order, but 8.1 is whether it's a suitable location and whether or not the business would be in harmony and compatible with other existing uses. And again, our position is that in the heart of the historic village business district on Main Street, surrounded by other businesses, it is in harmony. And I understand the concerns about the neighbors, but in this location, it's a unique location, a mixed business residential use it's unique. There aren't that many other areas in the town of Wethersfield that have this particular situation. But we do believe that this particular location, which again, we're not converting a two-family home, we're not seeking to convert a two-family home into a business. This was a commercial business. It's always been a commercial business. I'll withdraw that, I'm not sure. Maybe hundreds of years ago it may have been something different, but it's been more recently a commercial business. It's approved as a commercial business. Neighborhood compatibility, again, Section 8.2, we believe on the Main Street where it's located is compatible with many of the other neighboring businesses. I realize, again, there are neighboring residences, but we believe that it is compatible. 8.3 is the appropriateness of the structure. The fact that we're really making no changes to the structure, and we've complied with the Historic Commission, who very thoroughly reviews all of the plans, the concept, and they've approved this. We believe that we satisfy that problem. 8.4 is suitable access. Whether or not there is suitable access, it's Main Street. Main Street is designed for access.
Excuse me.
So we do believe that the application does sufficiently satisfy the prongs of Section 8 in the zoning code, and we do believe that it should be approved.
I'm just going to pick up on Commissioner Homicki had asked earlier, what would happen if there's a completely full parking lot at the Keeney Center on a Saturday night? I realize you're saying that you could control your employees with a shuttle, but I think as a practical matter, you can't necessarily, you could advise customers that you'd like them to utilize a shuttle or come in a different way, but I guess I'm struggling with how you can ensure that 114 customers are none of them are going to come and try to park on the street on that type of occasion, how you manage it.
Well, we're not saying that the customers can't park on the street. There are over 200 public parking spaces on the street, but if a customer can't find a parking spot, they're not going to be able to dine that evening at the restaurant. I mean, that's a cost of doing business that my client's willing to deal with.
I think,
I mean, customers aren't going to be parking on people's lawns.
Right.
But if they drive through a parking lot and they can't find a spot, they're going to have to go elsewhere for dinner.
I appreciate, I think your client is obviously trying to do he's proposing a business that he cares a lot about, and, give him credit for what he's attempting to do. But I think the question for the commission is, it's a mixed-use village business district, and yes, it was a bed and breakfast, but in terms of intensity, how does the intensity of what you're proposing fit? And I think it's certainly a different level of intensity than what was there before, with 6 or 8 guest rooms and maybe 10 people versus what a restaurant brings with it.
I said the preparation and serving of meals is analogous to the bed and breakfast. We understand that it's certainly much more intense.
So it's gradations of intensity.
It's not more intense than the other restaurants that are currently existing in Old Weathersfield. And again, we believe this particular location, if there is ever going to be another restaurant in Old Weathersfield, this would be the right location for it, based on its proximity to the public parking that's currently available.
Right. So is that all you have for this moment? Did you have anything else? Okay.
That's it.
I think what we need to do a little bit as a commission is just discuss our options here. Obviously, one of them is to continue the hearing, which Dave has just pointed out would be necessary in terms of town review and so forth. But I guess if you don't mind going beyond that a little bit, we have a lot to digest. We've heard a lot of important comments from the public. I guess I'm just trying to get a little bit of a sense where people's heads are, perhaps, just in terms of the overall situation, the appropriateness of the use, even if you put aside the details that we don't have yet closure on from the town staff, because depending on where people's thinking is, it might or might not be productive to continue down the road of further staff review if the majority of you are having difficulty with the application. Then potentially we could act on it tonight. If you're inclined not to do that, then I think we definitely would need additional time to complete the staff review process. But I put it out there to people.
It seems to me that it's basically the engineering items, and they've indicated that they've taken care of all of them and are amenable to a couple of the recommendations that engineering made. That's not going to change 2 weeks from now. I think we have enough. That's my opinion.
Frankly, I guess what I'm saying is if the commission were inclined to approve this, I think we would want to go into some very detailed, carefully crafted conditions, which I think would be difficult to do here on the fly. I guess my point was, if the commission is inclined to go the other way and not approve the application, then we certainly could act tonight. But if it's more towards an approval, I, for one, would want to take care. I would want the benefit of the rest of the town staff, and I would want to take very much care in considering all the conditions. Tom?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm rather sympathetic to the direction that your analysis is leading. I would much prefer to have a complete record that would include the final reports from town staff, as well as the documentation from the review by the Historic District Commission, all as a part of the record, to have a complete record of this application before we make the decision, both for purposes of completion and also to be assured that the review that has taken place has been complete, final, and thorough. And I don't think we're quite there yet, and I feel much more comfortable about holding any decision on this over for a few weeks.
I understand, I understand your thinking, and again, I'm not trying to get people to take an instantaneous vote, but I think what I'm attempting to get a sense of.
Can I just make sure? I want to make sure if I'm understanding correctly, the idea is that there could be additional technical details that we could prepare if it was continued. But what I'm hearing is there a question as to whether or not some threshold criteria have already been presented and established in terms of the community character, the appropriateness of the site, and the parking adequacy that the commission could consider?
Right, any one of those
That-
things, and I guess at the end of the day, if 5 commissioners are of the view that any one of those things would preclude them from approving this, then in essence, that would kind of moot everything else, right? That's what I was driving at.
Well, you're almost asking us to declare that up front without discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into discussion, but I guess, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if it comes to that, I'm okay with waiting 2 weeks. I believe we have enough, and I've understood enough that I'm ready to make a decision tonight. But if we want to wait 2 weeks, it doesn't hurt anything, that's fine too. I'll concede to that as well.
I mean, I'll be frank and just say I'm really struggling with this application, and you know, again, I commend the applicant, but it's a very significant change in the type of use at that site, and I don't know that I can become comfortable with that, you know, whether it's another 2 weeks or not. Yes, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a let's get to yes guy on all of this stuff for the most part, but as I've listened to this, I listened to the impact on the property owners, and in most of the other situations where we have something where we're talking about that's got proximity to a neighbor's house, the buffer zones are much bigger. In this case, I just can't get past how close that service driveway is going to be to a neighbor's house and how close that back area is going to be, and you sort of magnify that with the intensity. I don't think those are engineering questions at this point. I think it's an impact on the neighborhood and the abutters.
I think that's what Dave was asking a moment ago, basically those
Right,
kinds of-
are those threshold elements that won't change with?
Marginally for me, no.
I don't see anything that the engineer could say that would mitigate some of the issues that this proposal has on intensity. So it's just not important to me to wait 2 more weeks.
Can I also, Commissioner, Chair, can I also ask just one more question of the applicants? So I noticed on the site plan, the dumpster would also be in the same driveway as the accessible parking, so it's the main driveway for the property. So there would be presumably, I mean, I think that was also mentioned in one of the memos from today, that you gave us today from the fire marshal about the ability for a truck to be able to come and access that dumpster and everything. That would also need to be able to access that driveway and be that close to a person's house. Like, how frequently would that need to get picked up and things like that? I'm just thinking about that it's very close to a person's house for a garbage truck that can pick up a
The company
dumpster.
that I use is CWPM. I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say the name, but they came and did and looked with their truck. They sent an email, they sent a turning radius, they sent the trucks they will be able to use. They have options of rolled dumpsters to have wheels in it so they can roll the dumpster, so they have no issue with them. This is the email that I have from that salesperson, and I can share this with you. I believe we send them with the revised plans, the second pack, but I also have this if you would like to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think my main concern is just that with the proximity to the neighbor, that there would be a commercial garbage truck of some sort, not necessarily the ones on the side of the street, but something there to pick up that dumpster on multiple times per week.
Once a week, and usually they will be early in the morning when we're closed and there's no other customers are parking in the back. Customers are parking.
The town engineer did ask for turning radius, and we did provide that. He also, the company that's going to do the dumpster has smaller trucks, and it could be changed to that if need be. So all we were able to do, and we showed it to the engineer, was that it is feasible and it doesn't cause a problem. The trucks can get in there. We also revised the accessible parking lot to get more room behind all the cars so that their movement and the trash removal movement goes in and out easily. And then again, a smaller truck could be used if the noise was an issue or anything like that.
Correct.
It could be used, and we could provide.
They gave us the trucks that they will be able to use for the property.
Like, I mean,
I can-
yeah, I mean, I can look at it now. Usually I like to have those kind of things in an email or something like that, but I'd be happy to. Thank
Sorry, I
you.
just took the name of the persons off, just for privacy.
That's a lot of trucks.
Yes, Tony?
I sit and picking up.
Yeah, that's usually what yeah, that's a good size truck.
The dumpster and the snow shelf is such a nominal issue. What about all the supplies that are going to be delivered in the restaurant at 3, 4, 5 in the morning? Does that happen?
No.
That won't happen. So your supplies will be around noon?
Around noon or early noon. And also we have a lot of specialty items that we'll be bringing from overseas. So a lot of that will be delivered within UPS or FedEx or DHL. It's specialty products that we'll be serving to the restaurant, which is hard to find here.
This will be a full bar restaurant.
Correct.
Certainly something to consider if conditions were imposed as far as times for deliveries.
The parking issue, do you think, short-term, long-term, what's your timeline to get other arrangements with different locations, maybe with even valet parking? You haven't pursued that? You can't answer that tonight?
I'm currently looking and asking if we can find other alternative parkings, and the valet is one of them that we will have to be looking into the future to accommodate that need.
Doesn't persuade me to continue this.
Is this the size of the truck that will be coming in and out of there?
28 and a half foot, yep. They also have the little one, if you look in the back last page, has all 3 trucks that they use.
Anybody at that end have any additional thoughts you'd like to share with us?
I guess generally 2 things. One, there's been a tremendous shift over the last few years in the amount of DoorDash and Uber Eats and things like that. And if you go to a restaurant, odds are most of the spaces in front of it are being taken up by people whose cars are still running, who are going inside to pick up paper bags. And when Luna Pizza was across the street, it was kind of the same way. There was, people there for 2 minutes, just a lot of in and out. They don't have that over, there's no parking on that side of the street. But that's just a reality of the restaurant business that I don't think we've ever properly factored into our deliberations. And the other thing, just generally, I think we've kind of oversubscribed the Keeney parking lot 50 times in the last 20 years. And, on those times, like Tony was mentioning, when you go to something at the Keeney Center and the parking lot's full, you've created potential nightmare for everybody else around it. I think the pictures that were taken kind of show how underutilized it is on some nights, but other nights it's completely full, particularly during the warmer months. So I think it's an issue that the town has been trying to deal with, and I think we've probably studied it 2 or 3 times in the time that I've been on the commission, and to essentially oversubscribe it again once, essentially giving a 58 space airball to one user just doesn't seem plausible.
I think there's also an issue of precedence here. If we allow an applicant to say, I have no parking, and that's okay, what's going to stop the next person from saying, well, you did it there, so, it doesn't have to be a restaurant, it can be anything else that may have even less intensity, but then, again, someone else can come and say, I don't need parking as well. We're going to hear an application tonight after this, that applicant took the steps to actually find additional parking for the use. And it's continuing.
And I guess I would just add to that. I think if you had I think at one time in the iteration of this building, there was going to be like a real estate lawyer's office in there. It never happened, but if you think about it, that's the type of thing that's going to be active only on weekdays, only during 9 to 5, and not in conflict with the restaurant type of use. So, again, I think the intensity and the timing of the type of operation is important, and whether you get a pile-on effect of a bunch of intense things that are going to overstrain the supply.
Well, I think ironically to that point, the Law Barn was like the first straw that broke the camel's back on street parking back about 20 years ago.
Buzz Willard's,
Yeah.
Yep. Buddy, Tracy, Dave, any?
I'm in agreement with what has already been said about the intensity and the lack of parking and the oversubscription of the Keeney Center.
So I guess I'm going to just put it out there again, I guess, just again, to try to keep it, don't want to be, I want to be not prolonging things from the applicant's perspective if prolonging them is going to sort of lead to the same potential result. So, and again, I will stress that if we were inclined to go forward and try to craft an approval, I think there's lots of, it's not just the engineering, it's the lease, it's the how the shuttle would work. There were many detailed issues, but I'm going to put those aside right now, and again get back to my thinking. I share what many of you have said about the parking supply, the intensity, and so forth, and I just think it would be difficult for me to. I just don't see how those things change, no matter what information.
Should we call the vote?
Yeah.
I'd say yes. I
Okay.
think we should call the vote.
I agree.
Close the hearing? Okay.
Let's call the vote.
Is there consensus on
I'll
that?
move to close the meeting.
With any, all right, if you have anything else to say.
Well, I mean, just, the commissioner was asking about the lease. As Mr. Croy indicated, he currently has a lease for his employees' parking. He also indicated that the owner of the building did indicate that once their law office closes after 5 p.m., that he could park as many cars as he wants. That's, obviously, it's not in walking distance, but if he is going to be able to provide valet parking or shuttle, which I think he's indicated he would, perhaps the commission might be willing to table their decision, and I could provide, before the next meeting, some further information about this lease, maybe get something more in detail in writing about the number of spaces after 5 p.m. For the commission to consider.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think the comments that we've heard are beyond that issue, unfortunately. So I think with the prior discussion we've had, I was going to, somebody like to make a motion
There's a
to close
motion
the
to
hearing,
close.
but
I made a motion to close.
is there a second? Chris?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion before we vote? We'll close the hearing. If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, hearing is now closed. Into the deliberation phase. I think our practice has been, regardless of whether you support or do not support an application, the right form would be to make a motion to approve in the affirmative. Otherwise, the record gets very confusing. So for discussion purposes, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve a special permit, change of use for 222525Z, 184 Main Street, to convert from a B&B to a restaurant with outside dining.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Peter. Okay, now let's open it up for further discussion.
I think that that there's a bigger discussion to be had that's not necessarily related to this specific application about the parking and use, but I just don't see how you reconcile that. Like if we, I think to your point, Peter, if we just keep kind of pulling on that thread, where do we stop? And the other piece, even considering if there had been an option for a valet, I feel like that would have to go back. You can just put it, where are you going to put that? How does that go back before the Historic District Commission? How does that, fit in with the space? I don't even see anything specifically about how we handle valet parking in our zoning for the town. So something like that, or a shuttle drop off, like all of those things would have to be factored in, and there's no parking in front of the restaurant space. So I just don't see how we reconcile that piece of it, considering what we have available in the district right now? Because I personally don't know a time when I go down into the district, even on if I would, most of the time when I go down to the district, even the Keeney Center is nearly full. So I think I would need a pretty comprehensive parking study of the district. And then the question to me becomes, is that a responsibility of the applicant or of the town to understand what our real capacity is for that issue? I just don't see how we do that safely necessarily.
Yeah, one thing I don't want to lose sight of is he has a great idea and a great business. I mean, the energy he's bringing to looking to make an investment in this, I don't want to have that lose sight of that at all. Unfortunately, I think it's just the wrong location, given the proximity to the neighbors. Like, take the parking out of it. Just the degree of volume of what I think is likely to occur on the street in front of it. We're talking about the DoorDash, we're talking about people being dropped off for parties, we're talking about people being picked up for Uber, et cetera. And then I just can't get really past 4180 Main Street. I was looking at the detail. I think HDC does a great job of reviewing this, but they're thinking in terms of preservation. I think they're thinking in terms of aesthetic and preserving what the neighborhood looks like. I'm not sure they're thinking about a refuse truck coming 2.5 feet away from a neighbor's house and things of that nature. So I think there's a lot of positive here. I just unfortunately think, given the proximity to the neighborhood around this particular property, it's a tough sell for me.
Anybody else? Tracy?
I agree with Paul. In thinking about the application, it sounds great. I would love to eat there, but I do have a bit of an issue with the intensity, the size, the number of tables that are going to be in there, the size of the lot, the distance to the neighboring house, et cetera. It kind of brings it more out of like the village feel and more into the urban feel, which I'm not sure we necessarily expect in Old Weathersfield. And, I think that, if you think about it, like, have you been to a location like what this is going to be? Where was it? Downtown Portland, Maine, those kind of places. And I think that we need to look at the master plan for Old Weathersfield and see whether or not it fits in with where we expect the village to go.
Well, in other special permit applications that we've done in the past 2 years, this commission has worked very hard to consider everybody, residents, business owners, and I agree, this is a great business. What we've done in other locations is put constraints, provisions that really, in many ways, I think brought an integrated solution that sort of worked for everybody. And that's what we were comfortable with. We approved something that sort of worked and it wasn't perfect for everybody, but sort of worked for everybody. There was some balance. Unfortunately, in this location, at least from my perspective, it's just too intense. And it's really a tiny little lot next to another tiny little lot. Everything is so shoehorned that we can't possibly put enough conditions on this to kind of balance things. It's just not possible. The only way I see a restaurant going in there is reduced intensity. I mean, it doesn't have to be 138. It doesn't. It could be less. So that's something to consider. I mean, you're, in my opinion, you're an extreme. So you just want to find something a little closer to a balance for everybody that may work.
Comments, Dave?
Yeah, I think the site design, from a standpoint of putting the public side towards the Keeney Center, towards the business across the street, is great. The one thing which is the downfall, parking. If there was a parking answer, like we said, of having another parking lot for, that could be used by the system would be great, but using the Keeney Center, those 50 places, can't be done. I mean, we have to study it, and that's not good for the city or the town from a standpoint, but great effort. It's just, you got to solve the parking problem, which we can't solve by saying, here, you get this much of the Keeney Center.
Else? Okay, so we've got a motion to approve and a second. So I'll first ask for those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. And those opposed to the motion to approve the application, please say nay. Nay. Any abstentions? Right, the application is denied. I think, why don't we take a 5-minute break at this point before we go into the next application?
More successful.
That's
I know.
With Tom and Chris.
Researchers, she goes, when they're in
But here's now, Tom, my
just like this, not the percentage, not all.
well, yeah, I mean, those
My lab space. This is yours. So I was thinking, like, I.
Guys, we're going to go.
Transferring what to do.
Okay, resuming our meeting. The next application is 245 Main Street. Trying to find the top of the agenda.
I started writing.
Oh, okay. Modification to special permit 245 Main Street, seeking a change of use to professional office and personal services and parking reduction and modification. Attorney Kaliwa, welcome.
Welcome. Attorney Hammer, Vice Chair Lambruni, members of the Commission, welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Now for something completely different, an application for a business in Old Weathersfield. Anyhow, my name's Matt Kaliwa. Grew up in town, still live here, can't seem to get away. I represent the applicant, 245 Old Weathersfield LLC, if I remember that right. And Nick Roman is the principal here. Also here with me today is Ray Malinowski from Indigo Land Design, who will be the one primarily taking you through the site plan. And our tenant, one of our tenants, Julie McCary from Do's and Dies, who'll chat briefly. I think the application's fairly simple. We'll do our best to keep this fairly short. Hope you appreciate that. History of the property, I think it was built in 1922. Historically had been an assembly usage, lots of parking. I hate to admit it, but I attended an initiation ceremony there as a teenager. And Dave's chuckling over there. I think he knows what I'm talking about. The current approved use for this is a brew pub. Commission previously approved a special permanent site plan for use of the property as a brew pub for a prior owner. That was supposed to be only, I think, on the first floor, possibly, I think, with some basement use. So right now we could open that business, but we don't want to. Better uses, less intense uses. That application, which would have been a parking intensive use, was approved with a note that said the second floor couldn't be used until such time as approved by the commission. I believe that application required 47 spaces just for the first floor, I think use of the basement perhaps, but only 3 being provided on site. The current application, which is for a mix of personal services and office/professional office, would be for all 3 floors of the building, and instead of 47 required spaces, it reduces that down to 38, 9 less, for those that have trouble with math. The applicant is providing 3 additional on-site parking spaces. I think the prior one had 3. This is going to 6. That's being achieved through the removal of the garage from the prior plan, making this site also less intense, be more open. We understand that parking in Old Weathers is a concern, as is obvious, and we're happy to propose a use that minimizes the impact on parking. There is an off-site parking arrangement signed with the owner of 304 Main Street, Heartseed, for 33 off-site parking spaces, which is noted in the narrative that we had gave to you. Historic District Commission approval is pending. The applicant has met with them informally through some pre-approval meetings multiple times to go through aspects of the site plan. Their comments, informal of course, are incorporated into the site plan. He'll have to go back for formal approval, but doesn't anticipate much changing given the prior meetings with them. So if that has to be a condition to the approval, we would certainly understand that. That's enough from me right now. I hand it over to Ray from Indigo Design, who can take you through the plan, emphasizing what's changed from the prior approval. After Ray, we'll hear from Julie. Sorry. Can you all see that? I hope for the human billboard.
Doesn't he have it over? Don't you have it overhead?
We could.
You have this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at it.
Which, if you don't mind, what sheet is that of the 4 sheets I gave them? Sheet 1. Sheet 1. So,
You can project it, right?
Colored up to
I can, yes.
easier to read, I think, with the graph.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Raymond Malinowski, EIT project engineer at Indigo Land Design, here to guide you through the site plan.
Bear with me one second here.
Yeah, you got it.
The way the audience can see it too.
Is there any difference from what you're going to be talking to than what's on sheet 1 of the electronic file, other than the coloring? If so, just point it out. That's probably
Yeah, no, there shouldn't be whatsoever. I also have the previously approved plan that I'll be referencing while I discuss the site plan. But first, I'd like to orient us. The property 245 Main Street is...
Yep.
Are we up? Yep. East of the property is Main Street. To the south, Church Street. To the west, by about 30 feet, we have the boundary of a residential zone. So to start, what's different between this site plan and the previously approved plan is the removal of a 43 by approximately 25-foot 3-bay garage, which is replaced with an entirely pervious paver patio parking area. The applicant is proposing 6 spaces, and as Matt has just mentioned, the applicant also reached an agreement with the neighbor across the street, Heartseed Company, for an extra 33 spaces, which is in line with the requirement of 39 parking spaces for the proposed use, which is personal use and 2 floors of professional office. Moving on to some of the changes made to buffering from the residential zone. So there is the elimination of the fence line across the western property line as well as the northern property line. The applicant has had discussions with the abutting neighbors, both to the north and to the west, to confirm that a dense vegetative buffer would be adequate. Furthermore, from preliminary consultations with the historic district, the applicant has also confirmed vegetative buffers for the handicap lift, as well as a 6-foot high solid wooden fence to buffer the 3 proposed AC units, as well as the trash receptacles. Moving on, from an engineering standpoint, the primary difference, as previously discussed, the removal of the 3-bay garage greatly reduces the proposed impervious coverage as well as the proposed building coverage. The previously proposed 3 900-gallon concrete dry wells will remain, as well as increases to the proposed pervious patio, allowing for greater stormwater infiltration and aligns with the goals of low impact development that the town of Wethersfield and the state of Connecticut tries to comply with. Finally, regarding site illumination, so as opposed, actually, this up. I'll be switching over to the lighting plan, which was provided by Apex. This is sheet up. But this lighting plan shows that there will be no illumination that trespasses along any property boundary. So we have confirmed 0-foot candles to trespass, as well as the proposal of lighting fixtures that, if I switch over to sheet 4 of the site plan, are in line with the general aesthetics of the village district. The proposed lighting fixtures will be 4-sided traditional colonial lanterns with 3,000 Kelvin LEDs. Generally, to summarize, with reductions to the use and reductions to the impervious coverage, there are enhancements to stormwater infiltration, as well as enhancements to compliance with the zoning regulations and compliance with lighting regulations as well. If you have any other technical questions, please.
Could you address the lift? It used to be in the front. I think you're going to put it in the back now?
Yeah,
Could you go through that for us, please?
If I was not present during the discussion where the lift was relocated. The lift happened to be relocated primarily because of new access to, so the previously proposed use utilized handicap parking spaces in replacement of 3 existing street parking spaces. That has been eliminated, so we're no longer proposing utilization of street parking. We're placing the necessary handicap space on the property, of which we have designed the parking area to meet all ADA accessible codes, which is 2% from the handicap accessible aisle to the handicap lift. So there is the necessity to place the handicap lift towards Main Street was no longer necessary, and the location is now placed towards the south of the building for better access.
Couple more questions. Architecturally, this building has got a lot of flaking paint. The cornice is pretty bad shape. Are you going to do anything to the outside to refurbish that?
Nick Roman, 245 Main Street. Yes, everything exterior, we're going to go wood windows, full repaint model. We're going to make it look like the old building. That's our goal. And then I will also speak on the reason for the handicap lift on the back instead of the front, because of the elevator inside of the building to be ADA acceptable. Yeah, compliant, is going to be on the back side of the building.
Yeah. Hey, just my final question. What's the purpose of those 4 tables there? Since the services you have really don't require any outside activity, is it just so people can hang out in the summer?
It was more for exactly that. Just be more welcoming when people are coming into the town. Places for people to sit, and then also the same with the bike ramp there, or the bike rack when we were talking to Historic, they said that there's a couple available, and that's potentially going to be for the town use.
Are you going to redo the front steps? It looks like you're doing something with the railing.
Yes, it's all going to be brand new. We're going to try to keep the existing columns and just repair them, but if we're unable to repair them, we're going to be doing a full replacement, but a like for like, so same exact look.
I think just to add on to one thing, I mean, you were asking about the patios?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of a more open feel and community feel in the main intersection in town. And also, just a couple things that were addressed. I think there was one change in the last one with HDC input for the wooden fencing around the dumpsters in the back. And then also, the vegetative buffer with the neighbors isn't just acceptable to them, was requested by them.
Right. But one of the reasons I also asked about that patio area, that's probably something that HDC has looked at. Have they approved that?
They've seen it. They didn't. We had a much bigger one proposed before, and they said if it's that size, it's most likely not going to be approved. So we shrunk it down from, I believe it was 8 picnic tables to now 4.
Paul? Just for clarification, back to the parking up front, no change occurring from what's currently there now. I remember during the earlier hearings where we're talking about the original brewery that was microbrewery was going to go in there. There was questions about adding a space and potentially endangering the 2 large trees that are out front. There's no change to that? It's going to be status quo the way it looks now and the trees stay?
Yeah, we have no plan on touching the trees.
And then second question, I know we're doing an application here for, I believe it's salon services. Do you contemplate adding any type of food services or anything to this in the future?
Yeah, we're open to whatever, but no, that's not really compliant with the parking.
Okay.
So.
Have you submitted an formal application to HDC yet?
Not for these plans, no.
When are you planning to do that?
Yeah, right away, right after this meeting.
But do you have a sense of what HDC meeting agenda you'll be on if you submit quickly?
Hopefully the next one we're able to get in on. Probably beginning of February.
Okay.
I have a question. How do you plan to ensure that your customers will be parking down at Heartseed Company? Will there be signage or, no? And what about the employees in the building? Will they be required to go down to Heartseed Company and leave the additional parking in the back for customers? How is that going to work?
Certainly request that the employees park there and try to write it into the leases. And customers, you can't, as we talked about, you can't control. So.
Will you put a sign, though, that additional parking is available?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Are you going to, Attorney Cleo, are you going to describe to us a little more detail on the types of uses for each of the 3 floors that you're proposing?
Yeah, we have a tenant signed for the second floor. It's a personal use establishment. You hear more about that today. In the first floor, there is not a written agreement, but the plan is for office/professional office use, and the same thing for the basement.
I saw maybe somewhere in your application materials, I saw a reference to, I thought, for the basement potential medical office as opposed to office.
It was probably in there because it's the same parking requirement.
Yeah, because I think
I don't imagine a medical office would go in there.
I think medical office is a higher requirement, which is why I was asking you the question. I think it's
we're not asking for that.
So just general professional office. Okay, and then the
obviously, if there's something came in with a higher parking requirement, we'd be back here.
Right, and then the personal service use, that's higher than the 4 per thousand, I think, isn't it?
I believe that's 1,000 per square foot.
of usable area.
Yeah, each of the floor plates, I believe, are identical, so it's not, we're not asking necessarily to have, you know, a particular use on a particular floor, but it's, you know, personal service and you know, office/professional on the other two
Wait,
floors.
service establishment is 5 spaces per 1,000 and
Right, that's
professional
worked into
office
the
is 4.
calculations, correct, Ray?
Yep. Yeah, so we have those calculations under the zoning data table.
Right.
Referenced in number 4. So per the project architect, each floor is 2,548 square feet. First floor, which, you know, we're not necessarily saying will necessarily be attorney office. It could be hair salon space. That will require 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet, 12 spaces total. So that will be the same for 2 of the floors, 24 spaces. And then the 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet will be required for the hair salon, which is 15 spaces total. So the 24 spaces plus 15 spaces is the 39 spaces. As we are proposing 6 spaces on the lot, 33 spaces shared with Heartseed.
So you used an average of you came out with an average of 4.5 spaces per 1,000, the blended rate, I guess, for the personal service and the office, right, when I read your parking chart.
Let's see this.
I believe that's correct, but
Yeah.
I have an expert next to me.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet for the hairdresser,
Yep.
you know, as there's 2,548 square feet, and, you know, we can't propose, you know, a portion of a space, we are saying that the 2,548 square feet of hair salon requires 15 spaces.
But that's basically the same as 3,000 square feet. I know the reg talks about the gross floor area.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'd love to have all 3 tenants all signed up all at once and
Right.
ready to go at the same time. And what's obviously driving the application is we have a tenant that wants to get a business going, and so we'd love to get moving on it, and, you know, while work on finalizing details with the other tenants. And if something happens that requires, you know, more parking, which we don't, hopefully it doesn't, we obviously understand we'd have to come back here.
Okay. Thank you.
Just have another question. So I assume that the hours of operations of this are going to be much more favorable to the surroundings than the previous application, right? What are the hours for this, like 9 to 5 or something?
Yeah, it might be earlier than 9 to 5, you know, some lawyers like, or whatever, I mean, we're talking to lawyers, you know, people like to get in early. I'd say 7 to, and I'll defer to the tenant, but probably 8 or 9 in the evening for the personal services.
That late for this?
Would probably, that kind of business would have evening hours.
But I would assume the office, 2 floors, you wouldn't expect weekends unless it was a real estate office, I suppose, or something.
It would be available to tenants, but the normal, usual use of the office would be, you know, basically 8 to 5, 8 to 5:30, Monday to Friday, with a few people trickling in on the weekends.
In any case, it's lower intensity.
Right, and your potential tenant of the personal service space is going to describe in more detail how that would work. Okay.
Just one question. I was looking at the accessible parking space in a lot, and it shows it as 8 feet wide, which I think that's less than state building code.
8 feet by 18 is required for handicap accessible spaces, along with an 8 foot by 18 foot aisle. We have a detail on the second sheet of the plan. This is in line with accessible regulations. This is sheet 2, detail in the bottom right corner. Or left.
Yeah, I saw that one on there. I just was, okay. Trying to look at state building code, because I think they updated that. I think it's wider than that, but I'm not 100%. So I'm just trying to, I don't know if anybody else knows the answer to that for sure, but I thought it was actually like 10 feet.
Van space.
It says 10 feet minimum on the bottom right corner.
So then that's only 8 feet.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's why I was very, because, okay, so I'm not, I thought I was losing my mind for a second. And also, I'm reading the state building code, which actually says 15 feet wide, including a 5-foot crosshatch.
Right. The stipulation to that 10 feet, of course, is that the 8-foot minimum is for a van accessible space with a van accessible aisle, which we are providing.
Thank you.
Want to go to your...
Nothing else from me, we got to ask Julie to
Okay.
come up.
Hello, my name is Julie McCary. I am really excited to be here speaking tonight, so thank you for the time. I just wanted to say I love the charm of Old Weathersfield and the sense of community. I bought my house about 10 years ago, and I'm raising my 2 daughters who are 4 and 7. And we love participating in all of the events like the Scarecrow Contest and the Bike Parade every year. And since I opened my business 5 years ago, my dream has been to move it to Old Weathersfield once there was a space available. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. It's a down-to-earth welcoming salon. We specialize in color and wedding hair. And we host fun small group events that bring the community together, like Mommy and Me classes and hairstyling and makeup classes. And my goal for the salon is really to just be a really positive space that adds value to the community. And now it'll actually be in my community, which is most exciting. I'm really eager to also meet and collaborate with other local businesses and to continue building on the reasons for people to come to Weathersfield. But just staying on theme with the focus of the parking tonight, I did want to add that I personally will be taking my electric bike to work every day. And also I've been...
Even in the snow?
We'll see. I do come downhill, so could be a little sketchy. But as of now, I've been open in West Hartford in a space for about 5 years. And as of now, we've been operating with 3 parking spaces with no problem. We have a little bit of off-site, like street parking, but we are a smaller salon, even though we're expanding into a bigger space. The plan is to have 4 styling chairs. So the primary purpose of the bigger space is to have a bridal suite to host more of these events, and the goal would be that most of these bridal parties, even though it's more people, they would be carpooling together to us to get ready in the space, and then go along to their next destination. So even when we have more capacity, the likelihood of using the, I think you said 15 parking spots would be total that were allotted for the square footage. Yeah, it would be very unlikely that that would ever actually happen, at least for the plans that I have now for my existing business and plans for growing, 5+ years down the road.
Could you explain a little bit more about the events that you mentioned in terms of when they would occur, day of the week, time of day, number of people that you typically would expect?
Yep, so there are small groups. So usually about like 4 to 5 families. It's kind of like styling classes to help parents learn how to style their children's hair. And we also do styling classes for learning how to do a blow dry, curling, do your own makeup. But again, they are small scale. So our largest class, I think, was 6 people. So it's really more that small group of an intimate setting where we're giving one-on-one guidance.
So is that outside of the normal salon hours of operation where somebody could come in for an appointment?
No, it wouldn't be. We are open on Saturdays. And usually that would be like a Saturday afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. And is it, what are your hours generally, days of the week and time of day?
Yep. We're open on Tuesdays through Saturdays, 9 to about like 2 days a week. We're open till about 7. And then on the other days, we're usually done around 4 or 5-ish. And Saturdays more like 2, I'd say.
And Sunday closed and Monday closed?
Sunday closed unless we would have a wedding, but typically we're traveling for weddings. But the goal is to host more weddings in salon as well.
And what is it when you host a wedding? Is that to get people ready for the ceremony?
Just the bridal party. So it would just be, not the actual wedding.
Okay.
So yeah, it would just be the girls getting their hair and makeup done before going on to the actual wedding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, so if you have a situation where you don't have the parking in the back and you have a group of folks coming in, would you be directing them in advance to the other location?
Yep.
Is that how you would handle it? I'm just curious how you
Yeah,
handle
that's
it.
kind of what we do anyway. We're very close with our clientele anyway, so they're often texting us and, checking in before they're coming anyway. So we would say, you can park over there, the parking lot's looking full, or we, of course, as Matt said, we would plan to park in the further lot and leave those spaces available for our clients.
Questions, commission members? Do you have anything further, the applicant?
Yeah, just very quickly, I guess, kind of apropos of the conversation before about, I guess this is the second application, 2 out of 2, where the engineering department didn't prepare any comments. And I believe the implication before was if commission members didn't think that anything that they were going to say would affect their vote, maybe vote without it. I would ask perhaps the same thing. This is an application where we are reducing parking, we are reducing intensity, we're reducing the building footprint. I can't imagine anything that engineering is going to come back with that's going to be different than what they said 4 years ago, that said this makes things worse than what engineering was already okay with. So I would just ask you to consider that, and perhaps considering whether to vote on it tonight, whether or not you could conceive of them when they finally get to this.
Appreciate your comments. I'm going to ask Mr. Elder to respond to it, because my understanding is, based on some of the site stuff, he can explain better what the town engineer is concerned about having time for, and I think Mr. Elder needs some more time as well.
I was just going to comment that, the drainage is important.
Right.
And, he's going to need to look at that. And I don't know how that would affect anything. It may affect, for example, location of your 4 tables. I mean, so there are some things that could possibly change.
I think in this, and I'll just say one of the reasons the applicant and the town engineer, they've been in discussions, which has been, it's been a good collaboration and a good partnership, but there are a number of site improvements that, this is also a gateway site. This is a major intersection. It's a viewpoint. It has a very large impact on the visual appeal of the rest of Main Street and Church Street. So there have been a lot of details being discussed, and I think the town engineer would like an opportunity. What happens sometimes is when the commission approves subject to an engineer's approval, we find ourselves in a position where there might be an interpretation or a request made, and I think we would like to avoid the town engineer being in that position. I don't want him to be in that position. And I also, quite frankly, haven't had a chance to, we received this one completely on December 8th. I had seen a preliminary plan, but I also have some questions about the uses. We did just hear a presentation and some numbers about hours of operation. I know the commission well enough. We generally do like to know those hours of operation. General uses are good. There have been times where we've approved a site plan that allows what we would call a tenant fit out at a later date. So even if the applicant doesn't know what the basement's going to be used for, if we could get some more details so we have some parameters so that they wouldn't have to come back, that would be beneficial to everyone involved. So I also have some questions that I would like to have the chance to review and ask.
Fair enough.
Before we act, and I also we don't want to lose sight of the fact that this is a public hearing, and I want to offer an opportunity now to go to the public.
Oh, of course.
And then
I wasn't
and I got a little ahead of it on my end as well.
Okay, I just thought that the impervious surfaces were being reduced and so forth.
Right, understood, understood, but we'll call you back after the public. Okay.
There's a question here.
Yes.
Yeah, just what's the anticipated date of needing to open a salon?
Yesterday.
Very quickly. I did already choose a final date with my current landlord. So we had originally discussed the end of February, March. But that's what I've been fingers crossed for. I don't know.
So you're targeting March 1st of 2026? Okay.
Attorney, you asked about, acting tonight. Is there a hardship in schedule here that you're concerned?
No, I know I have a tenant who's been breathing down my back to get.
All right. It sounds like you have the time, right?
Huh? And that's, I'm trying to make a business accommodation.
Chris?
And that timeline of March kind of brought up the question of using pavers. And there's still, how does that affect the development timeline at all of trying to, redesign any of that in the winter?
So for construction timeline, I can't speak to the applicant's ability to install the pavers in time. However, with the current parking agreement, which is active right now, they have 33 parking spaces to use while that parking lot could be constructed. It's not to say that they couldn't construct it in the meantime, but in the case that construction is occurring at the same time, there are still 33 spaces. There are still 2 floors that haven't been filled out yet, so we believe there should be more than ample parking for the incoming tenant.
But you wouldn't have handicap parking.
Yes, I don't know how do you get a CO?
Yeah, you can't get a CO anyways. It's immaterial.
I see.
All right, let's go to the public, and then we'll come back to the applicant. Is anybody in the public who'd like to speak? Yes, sir. Come up, please, and identify yourself for the record.
Paul Brady, 1618 Church Street. Our property abuts the Masonic property. Roman, I really wish you and I had the opportunity to talk about this application outside of this setting, because while there was a brief phone call about you wanting to put up a fence, or what would we essentially like to see, and we mentioned greenery is nice, there wasn't confirmed to anything. It's my first time actually seeing the application, and actually haven't had a conversation with the neighbor on what's actually going there. That being said, there's a couple of questions there. There's a lot of questions that I have about that.
I think you're going to have a couple of weeks, because we're going to continue and keep open the public hearing, but go ahead if you have comments you'd like to make.
Well, the first one is, so during the period of when the special permit, the change of zone happened for Boondoggle's bear establishment, that little patio area there, where I believe used to be about 6 or 7 trees right there, that's town property. So I'm trying to understand the patio, and what is the town's agreement with the property owner and that patio setting there. And number 2, I guess, again, like I said, I'd prefer to have this conversation with you outside. If there's no food establishment there, is it just for anybody that's really is a patron of, let's say, Village Pizza? You can't find some seat, you go sit over there. I'm just trying to understand the application. And then the March 1st potential opening, I don't know how to really fit that, because we live there and I don't really see anything happening. So I'm just kind of wondering, I don't really understand some of that. I don't quite see where exactly, is there going to be a dumpster? What's the trash thing going to look like? There's just several other questions to this application. And I will, over the course, sounds like you're going to table it. So over the course of the time, I'll definitely look into it and ask additional questions on that. But at this current moment, that's just my feel. I just feel that the application definitely seems a bit rushed, probably needs some more time to be put together. That's my thing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir.
Kevin Sullivan, 79 Wright Road. I'm also a member of Bike Walk Weathersfield. Just in general, as a citizen, this seems like a better fit for Old Weathersfield in terms of the intensity of use, and that the kinds of parking and other concerns that came up, congestion concerns that came up earlier tonight. From a biking and pedestrian safety standpoint, I honestly don't know if these comments are under your purview or at all, or at this point. The driveway would be new, so there's a new curb cut, which is like a street in the sense that there's a crossing for pedestrians. So we need to think in terms of it like a road intersection. So the width, the shorter distances are better for pedestrian safety. So it kind of looks like it's envisioned as a 2-lane exit and entry. I don't know if that's true, but if it could be done without messing up the parking situation behind the building, a single lane would be safer for pedestrians using that sidewalk, and pedestrian use in Old Weathersfield is off the charts lately, so I think it's a real concern. Corners of the driveway are like corners of an intersection. The sharper they can be, the safer it is for not inducing drivers to speed out into the street, just like really rounded corners at an intersection induces drivers to just like go through stop signs and stuff like that. And a small wet blanket is the driveway, I think, is going to reduce the parking on street by 2 or 3 spaces there. So if we're talking, we used to have 200 spaces on street in Old Weathersfield, now there's 197, so the math is not favorable. And also daylighting is another thing with driveways and intersections. We don't allow parking right at a corner for a reason, and that's for visibility of bicyclists, pedestrians, and drivers. It's a situation around schools where daylighting doesn't exist because cars are parked on corners waiting to pick up students. So I'd suggest that there be some daylighting on either side of the driveway so there's better visibility for drivers and anyone using the street for somebody coming out of that driveway. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this? Yes.
Good evening again, everyone. I am Christina Surgeon, 1618 Church Street, and I've been taking some notes as I go, so I'm gonna read them here. And so at this current point, I guess we're going to table it, but my objections are based on the parking inadequacy, which is one of the topics clearly talked about here today. I'll also talk about excessive intensity of use, inaccurate representations within the application itself about what conversations were had or how those conversations were had. I'll talk about snow removal, drainage feasibility, driveway safety, and direct impacts to just the neighboring properties. I'll add trespass to the list. There's so much that could go on. So the application itself proposes 3 separate commercial uses across 3 floors of the building. It says professional offices on the 1st floor, a beauty salon on the 2nd floor, and a business or professional or medical office or whatever they choose to put there on the lower level. And so we've also got tables out front, all sorts of things. And so this represents to me a significant expansion compared to the previously approved brew pub. And we had our fight with the brew pub folks, so I'm not trying to be biased here, but compared to the previously approved brew pub, which was limited to the first floor only. So that was one of the things I will say. And so despite the expanded footprint and layered use, the application claims that the current proposal requires only 39 parking spaces, which is 9 fewer spaces than the 47 spaces required for the prior approval. Fine. Multiple commercial uses operating simultaneously will generate continuous overlapping parking demand throughout the day and probably nighttime hours, because at this point they don't know what time the business is going to be closing. It for me represents not a reduction in demand, and this discrepancy is neither logical nor is it supported by real-world conditions. And so again, like I said, the application relies overwhelmingly on off-site parking, with 33 of the 39 required spaces located off-site and only 6 spaces provided on-site. And this sort of effectively internalizes the project's parking burden onto surrounding streets and neighboring properties. And I mentioned already about like people parking right at the edge of our driveway and us having inability to get in. So it seems like the proposal removes 3 on-site parking spaces along Church Street, replacing them with 3 on-site spaces that primarily benefit the applicant. And so I think this results in the loss of publicly accessible parking currently relied on by the neighbors, or I'll talk for them too, and about the historic district itself, and further intensifying congestion that is already existing in our dear historic district. In terms of the salon use and the rush or march, who knows when it will come into being. It's described as having 4 chairs. I just heard that. But the applicant has also indicated the inclusion of bridal suites, where brides and their parties gather to celebrate. And we know how a party goes when people are having a bridal party. Come on, we are celebrating. There are tons of people coming. And so this type of use is not a standard single client appointment model. Bridal events commonly involve 4 to 5 families, like she said. So that means multiple vehicles coming and going, and they'll be there for an extended period of time. There will be simultaneous arrivals and departures, and so in terms of the event style use, it significantly will increase the parking demand, traffic, noise, pedestrian activity, all of which are incompatible with the limited on-site parking as it currently exists, and reliance on off-street spaces and residential nature of the abutting properties. In terms of snow removal, I'll say the site already has constrained parking and circulation space. So during the winter months, we're in winter right now, snow storage will further reduce usable parking, and that's a reality. We can't deny that. The narrow drive aisles will impede pedestrian access, will impede our access as neighbors. And so there hasn't been any clear identification of how that will be dealt with. So I'd like more information on that. In terms of access points, how will they continue to remain usable without snow being pushed towards our property, or the public ways? I'm just thinking about just the snow removal or the snow that happened recently and the time it took for the 245 Main Street to come and clear the sidewalk. And I mean, somebody could have slipped and fallen on that sidewalk. It's a reality based on how well it was cleaned. So I put well in in quotations. And so we have to think about like winter conditions and how that will exacerbate the parking shortages and increase that spillover and heighten trespass onto our properties. There are already people like trespassing across that whole area already to just get to Heirloom Market. And so when we talk about reconfigured parking areas, removed structures, and expanded paved surfaces, and that sort of increases stormwater runoff. And this application, it definitely does not demonstrate how drainage will be managed during the heavy rains or snow melt events without directing water onto my property, for instance, or somewhere else, or even onto the public sidewalks. So those are things we need to consider. And for me, one of the points I have is that poor drainage can cause pooling, it can cause erosion, and it can cause icing in the winter months. And those are conditions that directly affect me as a neighbor, and it creates a safety hazard near the walkways and the driveways. And like I mentioned for the previous thing, we've got people walking here, kids walking here. So I've got young kids I have to think about as they walk down or stroll down Main Street or from Church Street onto Main Street. In terms of the proposed driveway, it appears very close and constrained, particularly in relation to our property line. And I don't even want to start talking about property lines because that will, bring up some other issues. So I'll leave that for another day. Increased traffic from multiple commercial uses already, including event-style salon activity that raises concerns about safe turning movements, about vehicle encroachment, about pedestrian conflicts. And these are magnified during the winter months when snow accumulates further. And so that sort of narrows the access, and it's just heavy use of vehicles and how they're swishing and moving the snow as it comes. Those are things that we have to take into consideration. And so the application does not provide sufficient analysis demonstrating that the driveway configuration can safely accommodate anticipated traffic without impacting other neighbors. So that needs to be addressed. In terms of the misrepresentation regarding the vegetative buffer, there was, conversations about that, but while there was a brief informal conversation about vegetation, nothing was ever agreed to, requested, or approved by anyone, not by me. So a finalized plan is something I'd like to see, and so no consent was given or anything like that. So we welcome a conversation about that as neighbors, because that's what neighbors do. They talk to each other, and they, I can go back to like a tree falling on our house and the discussion with the abutting Heirloom Market neighbor. I don't even want to go there, but I will keep it at that. There are these sort of misstatements undermines confidence in an application's reliability. So let's just think about that. There has, like I said previously, been unauthorized foot traffic and encroachment onto our property associated with activity at this site itself. And we can pull up videos and show it, because we've got cameras.
Ma'am, I'm just going to ask you, we understand what you're saying, but if you could try to stick to the plan as
Okay.
proposed and the use, we would appreciate that.
So as for me, the application represents a clear intensification of use that exceeds what this historic district and the surrounding neighborhood can reasonably support. And for all the reasons stated previously about loss of public parking, event-style commercial activity, unresolved snow and drainage and things like that, and trespass, I do not see, or these are things that need to be discussed. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else looking to speak on this application? Anyone else looking to speak on this application? Seeing none, the applicant, if you want to say anything further, and then I think we're going to make a motion to
A lot of what was said, I'm not
continue.
quite sure how to address, and I won't. I'll just say the building's been there for 100-plus years. This is about the least intense use I can think of for the property. We'd be happy to continue to have a conversation with the neighbors about buffering. Thought there was an understanding. Apparently there was not a meeting of the minds, perhaps, on both sides. And there's nothing being proposed within the public right-of-way. I'm not quite sure what that's all about. So,
all right,
we'd
thank
ask
you.
you to
And we're
approve
going
it when the time has come.
Thank you, and we're going to continue the
Thank you, sir.
hearing. Would somebody like to make a motion to continue this public hearing to our next meeting, which I believe is
21st, Wednesday.
21st, a Wednesday, because of the Monday holiday that week, so it'll be Wednesday, January 21st, starting at 7 p.m. Would somebody like to make a motion to continue the public hearing to that date and
I
time?
think Rich made a vote.
Rich did it, we
Rich
did.
did. Second by
I'll second.
Petter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Continued.
Next on the agenda is a request to consider a bond.
On reduction request, item 4.1 for Reservoir Estates. I know there's a memo from the town engineer with a recommended amount, reduced amount.
That is correct. So some of the commissioners probably know this project better than I do, but I believe this is either the third or the fourth bond reduction, but there has been a request made by the developer for the town, for this commission to consider a bond reduction. The town engineer has provided a memo dated December 11th of 2025 that has been shared with the developer, and there have been no objections. Subject to the commission's approval, the town engineer is comfortable with this recommendation for a bond reduction.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the bond reduction as specified by the town engineer for the property on Reservoir Estates, Phase 1, 2, and 3.
In the town engineer's memo dated December 11th, 2025.
Right.
So it's clear. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
I'm on a roll. Next on the agenda is, this subject came to my attention. The Economic Development Director, Kurt Lang, has been doing a number of ribbon cuttings. He's been in town. He's been talking to business owners. He's been talking with all kinds of people. And I guess he has been approached several times about an interest by several different people for us considering drive-throughs in the town center zone, which is a rather small area between Wells Road, going north up to Church Street, the majority of which is on the east side of the highway, but there are a few large parcels that are on the west side of the Silas Deane Highway. And he had asked me to consider proposing it to the commission. He asked me to propose considering it as a zoning text amendment, and I am aware that there was not in this zone. Sorry, I'll show. Sorry, just bear with me. Don't. So this is the map. In the red is the town center zone, and I explained that before I took over this position that there had been a proposal for a drive-through not far away from this in a different zone, and I know that zone, I believe I think it was it was either a site plan that was proposing the drive-through and determined the drive-throughs weren't allowed, or it was a zoning text change which would have allowed a drive-through. In either case, it was denied for either not being allowed or not being approved. And so I had suggested that before I draft a regulation or we spend much more time on this, that I present this to the commission, or that he presented to the commission. And I did explain to him we were going to be here probably for a long time tonight, and so I offered to present this on his behalf. And so as a concept, I wanted to present it to the commission, see if there was an appetite to consider this. If there is, then I would go back to Kurt and or talk to the town manager and see if the town was interested in proposing this, or we could wait for such a time that a business or one of the people that spoke to him are interested in this and they could do it as well. But the point of tonight's conversation as a pre-application would be, is there a reason that we would just want to not consider this in this town center zone?
Can you be more specific just in terms of who's interested in this? Because I guess I would just point out that both the regional, the general business zone and the regional commercial zone, which I think encompass much of the Silas Deane Highway and the Berlin Turnpike, do allow drive-throughs, as you know. So this is a pretty finite area, relatively speaking, and just
That's the only block without a Dunkin' Donuts.
right. What's the perceived need for it, I guess, is the question as you understand it.
My understanding is that there have been two very specific requests, I believe, for a single site to allow for a drive-through. And it's the largest site. I generally try to avoid having parcels on a zoning map, but our zoning map does have parcels. So, and again, my understanding of drive-throughs is that the state requires a stacking or a queue length of at least 15 cars. And so by virtue of that and the fact that Silas Deane is a state highway, only certain sites are going to be able to accommodate that stacking queue. So that is self-limiting. And when I was approached with it, I said that currently drive-throughs are allowed by special permit, which does allow the commission to consider the unique characteristics of individual sites, which allows for greater control. So for those reasons, I said it was worth considering as a concept before going forward with the full proposal.
Appreciate that. I guess just one other comment. The town center zone is small and has a long history, I think, in terms of different planning studies going back a long time. But in the regs, and again, this is an informal presentation just to hear informal thoughts. It's not binding. It's not an application. I should have said that in the beginning. But in the regs, it actually describes the purpose of the various zones. And for the town center, it says intended to provide for the development, maintenance, and enhancement of a community focal point along the Silas Deane Highway that provides for a more pedestrian-friendly area that will support and enhance overall community character and ambiance. So I think it was being treated differently, than the general business and the regional commercial, just in terms of the way the regs are set up, for sure. But
and also the Silas Deane vision, it does make sense. I was wondering how this became the town center, and it was intentionally chosen to be the town center to connect Old Weathersfield and Griswoldville, and because the history of Weathersfield doesn't make sense why this was town center. I've talked to some of the commissioners about that, and the Silas Deane vision plan does have this as the starting point for the pedestrian and landscape improvements for all of the Silas Deane. So it does occupy a space, within the plans that the town has.
But I guess, to me, I guess one of the questions is, it seems like there's a lot of properties in the zones that allow drive-throughs. And it's not that we have a shortage of drive-throughs.
Yeah, had a little bit of time to kill. Too much time on my hands, I guess. And I think on the other hearing, I've shown my thinking. I'm basically against drive-throughs in concept. We have 22 drive-throughs on the Silas Deane between Jordan Lane and Town Line Road. If you count, I think Wendy's is in our town. Right, if you think about that, there's 22 drive-throughs in 2.8 miles. So that works out to 8 drive-throughs
And 2
per
Dunkin'
mile.
Donuts.
Well, that includes everything. I mean, that includes and my calculation is extreme, right? The tax place and the shopping center next to Panera, I counted that because it could be a drive-through if you wanted to have that.
Right.
So it's just kind of, I just find that a high number of drive-throughs in a very short, concentrated area. I mean, if you put that into perspective, that's like every time you walk a lap around the track at the high school, you come across 2 drive-throughs, if you put it that way. Now, I understand for banks and for pharmacies, I'm supportive of them because you've got access and mobility and, people need to get it. But I just looked at that number. I thought that was an awful lot for an existing place. And within the town center zone, I think we just have Bank of America is the only one that's in there right now.
Correct.
And I think that proposal that failed, the text amendment that you referred to from years ago that was denied, they were actually proposing a pretty hefty minimum setback from the nearest residential. I can't remember what the number was, but looking at the layout of the town center zone, and seems like a lot of the parcels are smaller and a lot of them are adjacent to residential. Trying to maintain some kind of distance seems like it could be challenging.
That's a good point, yeah. Well, I think this is exactly why it was a good idea to come. I mean, if other commissioners have any input otherwise, or they seem to...
We've had, in my recollection, 3 other somewhat informal approaches to changing what was going on, and we're pretty much against all 3 with the same logic that if we're going to maintain any semblance of a town center for the future, it's such a small area. You don't want to mess with such a small area. I mean, someone wanted to put a car wash at one point. Remember that?
That was an informal
it was informal,
pre-application to discuss whether they would change the zone to the zone across the street to do that.
Right.
I would just add too, like, I think I remember that this specific zone coming up in our plan of C&D. So just thinking about, that would be, if that's something that we're considering a part of our plan of C&D, and adding, I think, allowing drive-throughs would be counter to the intent of that.
Anybody else have thoughts one way or the other on the concept?
My only thought is that if it could stimulate the assemblage of 2 or 3 small parcels to better intensity and develop a highest and best use for one or a variety of parcels, that might have some merit to it. But we would look at that, I think, on a case-by-case basis anyway.
David, if I read the memo right, I always hate saying that, I'm on the record as being an absolute no. But if I read this right, though, there would be a lot of control and a lot of review, and it wouldn't be opening, sort of an unlimited number. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, just...
Okay.
Well, I mean, as a special permit, just like any other thing, you have more controls over the conditions than any other type of permit that you act on, which is the reason that I suggested being consistent, if allowed to be considered at all as a special permit. But I was not aware of the separating distance between the residential zones, which is relevant to this entire zone. But I did find, just as Commissioner Homicki pointed out, assemblage, there's only a few parcels that would even allow stacking of 15 cars. So, right, you would almost have to assemble any other parcel than 2. I'm just looking at that without any engineering. But I do understand it's hard to, it's hard to, we have 2 major business corridors in town, right? So I know the commission doesn't want to prohibit any business on those, and that's where we want to see businesses, so that's always part of the conversation. But it's still better to have this conversation now, quite frankly, than to have anyone go forward and spend money or time on a proposal that is not going to be well received, because there are other alternatives. There could be zone changes. There are other alternatives to a zoning text change.
I think, as Peter brought up, there was a proposal for a zone change, I think, on the property that, I think you're talking about the old Helton's site, right?
Right.
And that's where they came in for the conceptual for a zone change to a different zoning district that would allow a car wash on the property, and the consensus of the commission at the time was that wasn't something they thought they'd want to see in the town center zone. So I guess whether you're talking about a text amendment or a zone change, I think ultimately it gets into some of the same issues. And to me, I guess I would like to see, didn't allow them anywhere in town. And we're saying that we had, 10 businesses lined up throughout the Silas Deane Highway that we would otherwise not get. That would be something, but I guess I'm not hearing that.
No, I hear the, right, if they're allowed in every other zone along the Silas Deane and the Berlin Turnpike, I hear that. That's good. I think this is fine. This is the feedback that I needed, and I'll share it with the Economic Development Director. We'll go from there.
Is this a new guy?
It is, yeah.
I wasn't aware of this. When did this happen?
I'm not, beginning of November, maybe, and end of
Well,
October.
okay.
Time's going by very quickly.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's good. Same as Kurt Lang. He would have been here tonight, but I let him off the hook, knowing that it could be, 10:15 by the time this comes up.
For anyone else who hasn't spoken, please, speak up if you have anything you'd like to add. None?
Oh, I'm just going back to
Staff
the agenda.
reports?
No, I don't think we have any staff reports. I just, keep in mind that we did have to leave the public hearing open for the Plan of Conservation and Development until February to allow time for CROG to provide comments. So probably at our first meeting in February, there will be a public hearing for the adoption of the Plan of Conservation and Development and the Affordable Housing Plan, which we're going to adopt. I'm not quite sure if we need it anymore, but we're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the statute that required it was repealed, so I don't know if we need to adopt it.
I think not. That's in your hands, David.
All right.
What's the date of that public hearing, did you say?
Well, it would have to be the first meeting in February. Our first meeting in February, which...
Or it could be the one after.
Or it could be the one after, based on our agenda at that time. So Tuesday, the 17th.
Okay.
I'm sorry, in 1000 Silas Deane. So I would expect an agenda for the 21st to include 1000 Silas Deane, 245 Main Street, and that's it right now. That's a great agenda.
That seems like enough, those two probably. Okay. And then so far, is there anything on the agenda for the February 1st meeting?
Just the public hearing of Plan of Conservation.
Okay. Do you have anything else, staff reports, correspondence?
Minutes?
I do not, no.
Want to vote on the minutes for December?
Oh, yes, please. Would somebody like to make a motion on the minutes?
Motion to approve minutes for December 16th?
Second.
Second by Tracy. Any comments on them? Not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, any abstentions? Right, those are approved. Is that it?
That is it.
Public comments on
Okay.
non-agenda items.
Motion to adjourn?
Public comments on non-agenda items.
Oh, public comments on, where is that on here, on non-agenda items? Is there anybody looking
Crowd's
to-
getting thin.
Yeah.
All right, seeing no
All right.
public comment on non-agenda items, you've already talked, we've covered everything, I believe. There's a motion to adjourn by Peter with a second by Tony. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.